I stared at the frozen pepperoni pizza sitting on the kitchen counter next to a sticky note that read, "Congrats, grad," in my mother's handwriting. The family group chat had one new message from Dad. "Congrats, Juanita." That was it, my college graduation celebration. 7 days ago, they'd hired a professional event planner for my sister Emma's high school graduation. The contrast hit me like a physical blow. 4 years of Dean's List, summa cum laude, and this was my reward. I grabbed my packed bag and left. The memory of Emma's graduation party still burned fresh in my mind as I stood there in our empty kitchen, staring at that pathetic frozen pizza. Just 1 week ago, our backyard had been transformed into something out of a luxury wedding magazine. Mom had spent 3 months planning every detail with Marianne Castelloni, the same event planner who organized the mayor's daughter's Sweet 16. I could still see the white silk tent billowing in the afternoon breeze, the round tables dressed in navy and gold linens that matched Emma's school colors. 60 guests had arrived to find their names written in calligraphy on little place cards shaped like graduation caps. The caterers wore crisp uniforms as they served bruschetta shrimp cocktail and those little bacon-wrapped scallops that Emma loved. The 3-tier cake had been a masterpiece, each layer designed to look like stacked textbooks with Emma's favorite subjects written in fondant on the spines. The top had featured a sugar sculpture of Emma in her cap and gown, one hand throwing her hat in the air. It probably cost more than my meal plan for an entire semester. A string quartet had played classical versions of pop songs throughout the afternoon. Mom had made sure they learned Emma's favorite Taylor Swift song for when she made her grand entrance. The photographer hadn't just taken pictures, he directed everyone like we were filming a movie. His drone had buzzed overhead, capturing aerial shots of the party that looked like something from a country club advertisement. The fireworks had started at sunset. Not just a few Roman candles from the discount store, but a professional display that lit up our suburban neighborhood for 12 minutes. Each burst had been choreographed to music playing through the rented sound system. Our neighbors had come out to watch applauding when the finale spelled out Emma in golden sparks across the sky. "She only graduates high school once," Mom had said when I'd quietly mentioned the expense. "We want it to be special." And now here I stood on my college graduation day, looking at a $5 frozen pizza and a sticky note. I'd woken up at 6 in the morning alone in my childhood bedroom. My cap and gown hung on the back of my door where I'd placed them the night before. No one had offered to help me with my hair. No one had asked if I needed anything pressed. I'd done my own makeup in the bathroom mirror, trying not to think about how Emma had had a professional makeup artist for her big day. My hands shook slightly as I applied mascara. 4 years of studying until my eyes burned, 4 years of working campus jobs to buy my textbooks, 4 years of turning down spring break trips to save money, summa cum laude, valedictorian, Dean's List every single semester. The house had been quiet when I came downstairs. A note on the refrigerator explained my parents had a breakfast obligation. Emma's friend Sophia was having a birthday brunch at the country club. "We already RSVP'd months ago," the note said. "Can't be rude and cancel now. We'll try to make it to your ceremony." Try to make it to my college graduation, where I'd be giving the valedictorian speech to 3,000 people. I'd driven myself to campus in my 8-year-old Honda Civic, the one with the cracked windshield they'd never helped me fix. Emma drove a brand new white Jeep Wrangler they'd surprised her with on her 18th birthday. A reliable car is important for safety. Dad had explained when I'd asked why the difference. My Honda had 200,000 miles on it, but apparently that was reliable enough for me. The ceremony was scheduled to start at 10. I'd arrived early to meet with the other student speakers, going over the program one final time. The dean congratulated me on my achievements, telling me my parents must be so proud. I'd smiled and nodded, the lie burning in my throat like acid. Now standing in the kitchen at 2 in the afternoon, still wearing my graduation dress under my gown, I noticed something in the trash can. My hand moved without my conscious decision, reaching down to pull out a crumpled receipt. My heart stopped. Party City. Dated 3 days ago. Balloons, streamers, banners. Over $200 worth of decorations. But not for me. At the bottom in the notes section, the sales associate had written, Jake's grad party, university colors. Jake, Emma's boyfriend who is graduating from State University next month. My parents were planning another party, another celebration, just not for me. I set the receipt on the counter next to the frozen pizza. The sticky note mocked me with its casual, congrats grad. As if 4 years of excellence could be summarized in 2 words and a freezer-burned dinner. As if my achievement was worth less than punctuation. My phone buzzed, Mom finally, but not asking about the ceremony or apologizing for missing it. Just a forward of Emma's Instagram story from the country club. Look how pretty your sister looks. Something inside me finally shattered. Not broke, not cracked, but shattered into 1,000 pieces that I knew would never fit back together the same way. I looked around the kitchen one more time, at the refrigerator covered in Emma's achievements, at the wall of family photos where I could count on one hand how many included me, at the frozen pizza that represented everything I'd ever meant to them. I left it there on the counter, untouched, unwanted, like me. The afternoon sun beat down on me as I walked to my car, still in my cap and gown. My bag held everything that mattered, my diploma, my laptop, the few clothes I couldn't leave behind. I'd been planning this moment without realizing it, preparing for the day I'd finally accept what had always been true. I wasn't the daughter they celebrated. I was the daughter they tolerated. As I drove away from the house, my phone began exploding with notifications. The family group chat suddenly active. But I didn't look. Not yet. Whatever crisis my leaving had caused it would have to wait. For once in my life, I was putting myself first. 3 hours earlier, I'd stood in line with my fellow graduates adjusting my honor cords and trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. The valedictorian speech I'd practiced 100 times ran through my mind on repeat. Around me, excited graduates chatted about their families fighting for good seats, about the dinner reservations made months in advance, about the parties planned for later. My mom got here at 7 to grab front row seats, laughed Jennifer, my study partner from organic chemistry. She brought my grandparents from Arizona. Where's your family sitting? I'd pointed vaguely toward the middle section where I'd placed reserved signs on 3 seats the night before. Over there somewhere. You know how parents are probably running late fussing over everything. Jennifer had squeezed my shoulder. You deserve this moment, Juanita. After everything you've accomplished, they must be bursting with pride. The processional music began, and we filed into the massive auditorium. 10,000 seats filled with families, their cameras ready, their faces beaming. As we walked, I scanned the crowd looking for familiar faces. Maybe they'd surprised me and arrived early. Maybe they were already seated, Mom dabbing at tears while Dad got his camera ready. We took our places on stage, the student speakers in the front row. From this vantage point, I had a clear view of the section where I'd reserved seats. The signs I'd carefully placed were gone, and 3 strangers sat in those spots chatting amongst themselves. My phone, silenced and tucked in my pocket under my gown, vibrated against my leg. I couldn't check it during the ceremony, but I knew it was them. Probably stuck in traffic. Probably apologizing. Probably on their way. The university president began his opening remarks. 20 minutes of welcomes and acknowledgments, while I kept glancing at the entrances, waiting to see my parents rushing in, apologetic but present. The first student speaker took the podium, then the second. My turn approached, and the seats remained filled with strangers. The dean introduced me, reading off my achievements. Summa cum laude with a perfect 4.0 GPA, President of the National Honor Society, recipient of the Chancellor's Award for Academic Excellence. Please welcome your valedictorian, Juanita Martinez. The applause thundered through the auditorium as I stood. My legs felt like water, but I made it to the podium. 4 years of preparation for this moment. I looked out at the sea of faces, found the section where my parents should have been, and began. Distinguished faculty, proud families, and fellow graduates. 4 years ago, we arrived here with dreams and determination. Today, we leave with knowledge and achievement that no one can take away from us. My voice remained steady even as my heart cracked. I spoke about perseverance, about overcoming challenges, about the value of education that goes beyond textbooks. I talked about the students who work night shifts to pay tuition, who studied in hospital waiting rooms while caring for sick relatives, who proved that excellence comes not from privilege, but from persistence. Some of us had every advantage, I said, thinking of Emma's tutors and test prep courses I could never afford. Others made their own advantages through sheer will. Both paths led us here today to this moment of triumph. The speech flowed from memory, but my mind was elsewhere, calculating. They'd had 2 hours to get here. The country club was 20 minutes away. Even with horrible traffic, even with a flat tire, they could have made it. As I concluded with words about bright futures and unlimited potential, the audience erupted in applause. I returned to my seat, accepting congratulations from the other speakers, and finally pulled out my phone. 3 messages. The first, a text from Mom sent an hour ago. "Traffic is terrible, we'll try to make it." The second, a voicemail. I held the phone to my ear, straining to hear over the next speaker. Mom's voice, but behind her distinctive sounds. Splashing. Laughter, the specific echo of voices around a pool. "Honey, the traffic is just awful. Accidents everywhere. We're trying our best to get there. But you know how these things go. I'm sure you're doing wonderful." In the background, clear as day, Emma's voice. "Mom, are you coming? We're about to play volleyball." The third message shattered everything. Emma's Instagram story posted 45 minutes ago. A boomerang video of her diving into a pool. In the background, at a table under an umbrella, my parents. Mom holding a mimosa. Dad scrolling through his phone. The timestamp showed it was taken during my speech. My hands shook as I scrolled to the next story. Another video, this one with sound. Emma and her friends doing some TikTok dance. But I wasn't watching them. I was listening to the conversation captured in the background. "Should we head out?" That was Sophia's mother. "Oh, there's no rush." Mom's voice casual and dismissive. "Juanita won't mind. She's always been independent, not like our Emma who needs us for everything." "But it's her graduation," someone else said. "She understands. We had this planned for months. Besides, she's not really the celebrating type. Probably happier doing her own thing." The ceremony continued around me, but I'd stopped listening. Name after name called graduates walking across the stage, shaking hands, accepting their diplomas. When they finally called mine, I walked in a daze. "Juanita Elena Martinez, summa cum laude, Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry." I shook the president's hand, accepted my diploma, smiled for the official photographer, all mechanical movements while my mind reeled. They hadn't even tried to come. The traffic excuse was prepared beforehand, a lie as convenient as a frozen pizza. They'd chosen a pool party over my graduation, chosen Emma's friend over their daughter's biggest achievement. As I walked back to my seat, diploma in hand, I saw other graduates waving to their families, blowing kisses, wiping happy tears. The girl next to me was openly sobbing as her entire extended family stood and cheered, holding signs with her name. I had no one. The realization hit with physical force. 22 years old, top of my class, award-winning student, and completely alone. Not because I had to be, because they chose for me to be. The rest of the ceremony blurred past. When it ended, when caps flew into the air and families rushed forward to embrace their graduates, I stood still. All around me, reunions, parents with flowers, grandparents with cameras, siblings shouting congratulations. I walked against the flow toward the exit, still clutching my diploma. Outside in the harsh sunlight, I finally looked at my phone again. 17 missed calls from Grandpa Joe. 18, 19, 20. Before I could call him back, another notification. Emma had posted again. A group photo at the pool, everyone raising glasses in a toast. The caption, "Best Sunday fun day ever. Sorry to everyone who had boring obligations today." Boring obligations. My college graduation reduced to a boring obligation. I sat in my car in the parking lot, still in my cap and gown, watching happy families stream past. Some were heading to restaurants for celebratory lunches. Others loaded into cars decorated with congratulations messages. Normal families doing normal things for a momentous occasion. My phone rang. Grandpa Joe again. This time I answered. "Sweetheart, where are you? Why aren't your parents with you? I've been watching Emma's social media waiting to see pictures from your graduation, but all I see is some pool party." His voice, gruff with concern and barely contained anger, finally broke through my shock. The tears I'd held back all day suddenly poured out. "They didn't come, Grandpa. They didn't even try to come. Mom and Dad are at Emma's friend's party. They left me a frozen pizza and a sticky note." The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought we'd disconnected. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, controlled in a way that meant volcanic anger beneath. "Pack your things, sweetheart. Whatever you can fit in your car. Real change is coming, and it starts today." "Grandpa, I own that house they live in. Did you know that they've been living rent-free for 15 years, under the assumption they were taking care of my granddaughters, both of them, equally?" My heart stopped. "You own the house. Every brick, every tile, every blade of grass. And I've been documenting everything, keeping receipts, watching from afar, hoping they'd realize their mistake. But this missing your graduation for a pool party..." His voice hardened to steel. "I've been saving every penny to help with your student loans as a graduation gift. But now I'm reconsidering everything. Pack your things, Juanita. Real change is coming, and your parents are about to learn what happens when you neglect a blessing while celebrating a preference." As I drove home, still wearing my cap and gown like armor, I thought about the 3 empty seats, the lies, the frozen pizza waiting on the counter, the receipts for someone else's party crumpled in the trash. Change was coming, and for the first time in 22 years, I wasn't going to apologize for it. My grandfather lived 900 miles away in Seattle, but distance had never stopped him from being more present in my life than the parents I lived with. He'd been the one to call on my birthdays at exactly 7 in the morning, singing off-key, but with enthusiasm. He'd sent handwritten letters during finals week with $20 bills tucked inside and notes saying, "Brain food money." When I'd made Dean's List the first time, he'd had flowers delivered to campus because he said every achievement deserved fresh flowers. Now, sitting in that university parking lot with my diploma beside me and tears still drying on my face, I heard in his voice something I'd never heard before. Not just anger, but calculated fury. Grandpa Joe had built his construction company from nothing, had raised my mother alone after Grandma died. Young had always been the family diplomat. But this had crossed some invisible line. "Tell me everything," he said. "Start from the beginning. Don't leave out a single detail." So I did. I told him about Emma's 3-tier cake and my frozen pizza, about the drone photographer and my empty seats, about the string quartet and Mom's lie about traffic, about finding receipts for Jake's party while standing in my cap and gown in an empty kitchen. The words poured out like water through a broken dam, years of accumulated slights and dismissals that I'd trained myself to minimize. "The worst part," I said, voice cracking, "is that I kept hoping. Even walking across that stage, I kept looking for them, thinking maybe they'd surprise me. Maybe for once I'd matter enough." "You matter," Grandpa said, his voice thick. "You've always mattered. I'm calling my lawyer, and then I'm getting in my truck." "Grandpa, you don't have to drive all the way here." "Yes, I do. There are things you don't know, sweetheart. Things I should have addressed years ago. I've been keeping records, taking notes, hoping your parents would wake up on their own. But hope without action is just wishful thinking, and I'm done wishing." He paused, and I heard papers rustling in the background. "Juanita, did you know I've been paying for a private investigator?" My stomach dropped. "What?" "Started 2 years ago when I noticed some things during my Christmas visit. The way they forgot your birthday but threw Emma a surprise party. How your college acceptance letters were stuck to the fridge with a single magnet while Emma's participation certificates were framed, little things that added up to big problems. Grandpa, I don't understand. That house they live in, I bought it when your mother was pregnant with you. Put it in a trust with specific conditions. They were to live there rent-free as long as they were raising my grandchildren. Plural. With equal care, equal opportunity, equal love. It's all in writing. My mind raced. Our 4-bedroom colonial with the pool Emma used for parties and the basement Dad had converted into Emma's personal dance studio. The house I'd grown up in but never felt at home. There's more, he continued. The investigator has been documenting everything. Every party, every expense, every difference in treatment. Photos of Emma's Sweet 16 versus your absence of one. Receipts showing they spent $12,000 on Emma's graduation party last week. Bank records showing they've been telling me you didn't need help with college while taking money for Emma's future expenses. They told you I didn't need help. The betrayal cut deeper. Said you had full scholarships, that you were too proud to accept family money. I believe them because you never complained, never asked for anything. But that was the problem, wasn't it? You learned early that asking meant being told no, so you stopped asking. I thought about the nights I'd worked at the campus library until 2 a.m, then studied until 5. The textbooks I'd borrowed or bought used highlighting over someone else's notes. The meals I'd skipped to save money while Emma posted Instagram stories from expensive restaurants. There's something else, Grandpa said. The investigator noticed some financial irregularities, deposits that don't match your parents' salaries, money moving in patterns that suggest, well, we'll discuss that when I arrive, but Juanita, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Go home and act normal. Don't confront them yet, but document everything. Take photos of anything that seems important, financial documents if you can find them, and sweetheart, start recording conversations. Washington is a 2-party consent state, but where you are, you only need one party's consent. That party is you. You want me to spy on my own parents? I want you to protect yourself. There's a difference between secrets and privacy, and your parents have been keeping secrets that affect your life. You deserve to know the truth. My phone buzzed with another notification. Emma had posted a photo of the whole family at the pool. The caption, "Perfect Sunday with my favorite people." My parents smiled broadly in the photo, not a care in the world, 3 hours after missing my graduation. Grandpa, there's something else. I found receipts. They're planning another graduation party for Emma's boyfriend, Jake, next month. The silence was deafening. Then very quietly, of course they are. Sweetheart, listen to me. You're brilliant, accomplished, and worth more than 1,000 parties. The fact that they can't see that, that's their failure, not yours. But failures have consequences, and your parents are about to learn that lesson. What are you going to do? What I should have done years ago. Hold them accountable. I'll be there by morning. We'll have a family meeting they'll never forget. But first, I have some calls to make, starting with Richard Pearson. Who's Richard Pearson? A long pause. Someone who's been trying to help both you and Emma for a very long time. Someone your parents have been lying to. Pack your things, sweetheart. Tomorrow, everything changes. After we hung up, I sat in my car for another hour watching the last families leave the graduation venue. My cap lay crumpled on the passenger seat, my diploma still in its leather folder. 4 years of work, 4 years of excellence reduced to a solo celebration in a parking lot. But Grandpa was wrong about one thing. Everything had already changed. The moment I'd stood at that podium scanning the crowd for faces that would never come, I'd finally understood my place in the family hierarchy. Last. Always last. My phone rang. Mom, finally. I let it go to voicemail. Hi, honey, how did it go? Sorry we couldn't make it. This traffic is just nightmarish. We're heading home now. Dad picked up ice cream to celebrate. See you soon. Ice cream. They'd missed my college graduation and thought ice cream would fix it. Emma got fireworks. I got frozen dairy products. I started my car and headed home, but not to celebrate, to pack, to document, to prepare for whatever Grandpa and his mysterious calls would bring. As I drove, I thought about the investigator who'd been watching our family for 2 years. What had he seen that I'd become too numb to notice? What secrets lived in that house besides the obvious favoritism? The frozen pizza would still be on the counter when I arrived, the sticky note still cheerfully proclaiming, "Congrats, grad," as if 2 words could make up for 2 decades of neglect. But this time, I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't eat it alone in my room like I'd eaten so many silent dinners. This time, I'd be packing. I arrived home to find the house in its typical Sunday evening state. The sounds of reality TV drifted from the living room. Emma's laugh echoed from upstairs, probably on FaceTime with Jake. The frozen pizza remained on the counter, now fully thawed and looking even more pathetic in the evening light. The sticky note had fallen off, lying face down on the floor like a discarded afterthought. Mom emerged from the living room, still wearing her sundress from the pool party. Her face showed no signs of guilt or even awareness that she'd missed something monumentally important. "Oh, there you are. How was it?" she asked while already turning back to the TV, not even looking at me in my graduation gown. "How was what?" I kept my voice neutral, Grandpa's advice echoing in my mind. "Document everything." "Your little ceremony thing. Did they spell your name right on the diploma?" "Your little ceremony thing. 4 years of academic excellence reduced to a thing." I pulled out my phone and hit record, keeping it casually at my side. It was fine. I gave the valedictorian speech. "That's nice, honey." She'd already lost interest eyes back on whatever reality show was playing. "There's ice cream in the freezer if you want to celebrate." "Where's Dad?" "In his office doing expense reports. Oh, that reminds me, we need to talk about your student loans. The grace period is almost up, right? You'll need to start budgeting for payments." The casualness of it took my breath away. They'd spent $12,000 on Emma's party, but wanted to discuss my loan payments on my graduation day. I moved toward the stairs, still recording. "Hey, Mom, just curious. How was Sophia's party?" "Oh, wonderful. They had the most amazing caterers. You should have seen the spread. Though honestly, a bit over the top for a birthday. Not everyone needs such a fuss made." Not everyone needs such a fuss made. The irony could have choked me. "Speaking of parties," I kept my tone conversational, "I saw those receipts for Jake's graduation party in the trash. Looks like it'll be quite an event." She turned, then something flickering in her eyes. "You were going through the trash." The receipt was on top, hard to miss. $200 in decorations. That's generous. "Well, Jake's been like family, and his parents are hosting. We're just helping with some touches." "Right, like family." I nodded slowly. "More family than actual family, apparently." "What's that supposed to mean?" Her voice sharpened, but she still didn't look at me directly. "Nothing, just observing that Jake gets decorations and I get a frozen pizza." "Oh, don't be dramatic, Juanita. You said you didn't want a big fuss. You've never liked being the center of attention." "When did I say that?" "You've always been independent, not needy like, well, you know. Different personalities require different approaches. Different daughters get different treatments, you mean." Emma appeared at the top of the stairs, having heard the conversation. She smirked still in her bikini from the pool party with a designer cover-up that probably cost more than my graduation gown. "Are you seriously whining about parties? God, Juanita, you're 22. Grow up." "You're right," I said calmly. "I am 22. 22 with a biochemistry degree, graduating summa cum laude, working 3 jobs through college while you got everything handed to you. But please tell me more about growing up." "At least I don't make everything about me," Emma shot back. "Poor Juanita, so neglected. Maybe if you were more fun to be around." "Emma, that's enough." Dad emerged from his office, but his tone was mild, almost amused. "Your sister's had a big day. We should all be supportive." Supportive. I couldn't help the laugh that escaped. Is that what we're calling abandoning me at graduation to go to a pool party? The room went still. Mom and Dad exchanged a look I'd seen 1,000 times, the look that said, "Juanita's being difficult again." "We explained about the traffic," Mom said slowly, as if talking to a child. "Right, the traffic, from the country club, where you were drinking mimosas during my valedictorian speech. How could you possibly know?" "Because Emma live-streamed the whole thing. Instagram doesn't lie, Mom, unlike you." Dad's face darkened. "Watch your tone, young lady. This is still our house." "Actually," I said, feeling oddly calm, "it's not. Excuse me. This house, it's not yours. It's Grandpa's. You live here rent-free under the condition that you raise both granddaughters equally. How's that working out?" The silence that followed was deafening. Mom went pale. Dad's expression cycled through confusion, anger, and something that looked like fear. "How do you—" Mom started. "How do I know? Maybe because, unlike Emma, I pay attention. Maybe because I've been documenting the inequalities for years, thinking someday you'd notice on your own. Or maybe because Grandpa's private investigator has been watching for 2 years." "Private investigator," Dad's voice cracked. Emma laughed, but it sounded forced. "You're bluffing. Grandpa Joe wouldn't he? He'll be here in the morning, with his lawyer, and apparently someone named Richard Pearson." The effect was instantaneous. Mom stumbled backward, gripping the couch for support. Dad's face went from red to white in seconds. Emma just looked confused. "Who's Richard Pearson?" she demanded. When neither parent answered, I knew I'd hit something big, something deeper than just favoritism. "You should ask them," I said to Emma. "Seems like there are a lot of secrets in this family, like why they can afford your parties, but not my textbooks, like why there's money for Jake's graduation, but not mine, like why Grandpa's been documenting financial irregularities. Juanita, you don't understand." Mom's voice was pleading now. "Then explain it. Here's your chance. Tell me why I found receipts for a party for someone else's son when my own graduation warranted only a frozen pizza. Explain why you lied about traffic when you never intended to come. Make me understand why I've never been enough." "It's not like that," Dad said weakly. "Then what's it like? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you have one daughter you love and one you tolerate. One who gets celebrations and one who gets leftovers, one who matters and one who doesn't." Emma scoffed. "God, you're so melodramatic. Just because you're boring doesn't mean you're neglected." I turned to her, really looking at my sister for maybe the first time. Designer clothes, professional manicure, entitled Smirk. "You know what, Emma? You're right. I am boring. I'm boring because I spent Friday nights studying instead of partying. I'm boring because I worked doubles to pay for school instead of begging for handouts. I'm boring because I had to be. Because being interesting in this family means being you, and this family only had room for one of you." "That's not fair," Mom protested. "Fair. Yeah." I pulled out my phone and showed them Emma's Instagram. $12,000 for her party. Want to guess how much mine costs? $0. Actually, -$5 since you bought a frozen pizza. That's the exchange rate on fairness in this family. Dad tried to take control. "You're upset. I understand. Let's all calm down and discuss this rationally." "Rationally? Okay. Rationally explain why Emma has a college fund, but I have loans. Rationally explain why she got a car for existing, but I had to buy my own for surviving. Rationally explain Richard Pearson." At that name again, something shifted. Mom started crying. Real tears this time, not the performative ones she used to get Dad to agree to Emma's requests. "Please," she whispered, "not in front of Emma." "Oh, now you're concerned about Emma, worried she might learn something that tarnishes her perfect world." "Stop it!" Emma shouted. "Whatever weird jealousy thing you have going on, just stop it." "I'm not jealous of you, Emma. I'm free of you. All of you. Grandpa's right. Real change is coming. And tomorrow when he arrives with his lawyer and Richard Pearson, you're all going to learn what happens when love comes with conditions you forgot to read." I turned to go upstairs, done with the conversation, but Dad's voice stopped me. "Where do you think you're going?" "To pack. I'm done living in a house where I'm treated like a ghost who pays rent in achievement while getting nothing in return. This is ridiculous, Emma said. You can't just leave because you didn't get a party. I stopped on the stairs and looked back at them. 3 faces that shared my blood but had never shared my struggles. It's not about the party, Emma. It's about the pattern. It's about 22 years of being told I'm independent when what you meant was ignorable. It's about celebrating your C's while ignoring my A's. It's about you all choosing a pool party over the biggest day of my life and thinking ice cream could fix it. We're your family, Mom said desperately. No, you're Emma's family. I'm just someone who lives here, but not for much longer. I went to my room and locked the door, ignoring the muffled argument that erupted downstairs. Emma's voice was loudest, demanding answers about Richard Pearson. Dad's voice was angry, Mom's hysterical, the perfect family portrait finally cracking. As I pulled out my suitcase and began packing 4 years of college memories and 22 years of life, I thought about Grandpa Joe driving through the night, about lawyers and investigators and someone named Richard Pearson, who made my parents look like they'd seen a ghost. Tomorrow would bring answers. Tonight I had something more important. Freedom. The frozen pizza would go uneaten. The sticky note would remain on the floor. And for the first time in my life, I wouldn't clean up their mess. I wouldn't make it easier. I wouldn't pretend it was enough. My phone buzzed. Grandpa, 500 miles to go. Stay strong, sweetheart. The truth always wins. It just sometimes needs a good lawyer to help it along. I smiled, folding my graduation gown carefully into my suitcase. They could keep the house, the favoritism, the lies. I was taking something more valuable. Myself. The argument downstairs had reached a crescendo by the time I'd filled my first suitcase. Emma's voice, usually so controlled and sweet when she wanted something, had transformed into something raw and desperate. Through my bedroom floor, I could hear furniture being moved, things being thrown. I crept to my door and opened it slightly, needing to witness what was happening. The scene below was chaos. Emma stood in the center of the living room, her designer cover-up discarded mascara running down her face in black streams. She'd pulled family photos off the wall, throwing them at my parents, who cowered behind the couch. "Tell me who Richard Pearson is," she screamed, her voice cracking. "Why are you both acting like someone died? What are you hiding?" Mom was sobbing real body-shaking sobs, not the delicate tears she employed for sympathy. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes, his face gray and drawn. "Emma, please calm down," Mom begged. "Let us explain." "Explain what? That you're keeping secrets, that Juanita knows things about our family that I don't. I'm your favorite. I'm the one you love. How does she know things I don't?" The irony of Emma's meltdown over being excluded from family secrets wasn't lost on me. 22 years of being excluded from family celebrations, and she couldn't handle 22 minutes of being out of the loop. Richard Pearson. Dad said slowly, like each word was being pulled from him with pliers, was someone your mother knew. Before. Before what? Emma demanded. Mom and Dad exchanged another look, and I knew whatever came next would shatter Emma's world. Part of me wanted to retreat to my room to finish packing and leave them to their revelations. But I needed to hear this too. "Before she met Dad," I said from the top of the stairs. All 3 heads snapped up to look at me. "That's what you mean, isn't it? Richard Pearson is someone Mom knew before Dad. Someone important enough that mentioning his name makes you both look like you've seen a ghost." Emma's face contorted with confusion. "So Mom had boyfriends before Dad. Why would—" She stopped mid-sentence, the color draining from her face as understanding dawned. The math that even someone who'd barely passed algebra could do. Mom and Dad had been married for 23 years. Emma was 18. "No," Emma whispered, then louder, "No." Mom reached for her, but Emma jerked away violently. "Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me." "Baby, please let me explain." Explain. Emma grabbed a vase, one of Mom's precious antiques, and hurled it against the wall where it shattered into 1,000 pieces. Is Richard Pearson your biological father?" I finished quietly. That's the secret, isn't it? The reason for all the favoritism, the guilt, the overcompensation. Dad slumped into a chair, his head in his hands. We never meant for it to happen this way. Emma turned on me, her eyes wild. You knew, and you didn't tell me. I didn't know, I said honestly. Not until just now, but it makes sense, doesn't it? The way they've always treated you like spun glass. The way Dad looks at you sometimes like he's trying to prove something. The way Mom gives you everything you want like she's apologizing for something you didn't even know about. Shut up, Emma screamed. Shut up, shut up, shut up. This is your fault. Everything was fine until you started asking questions. She grabbed another frame, this one, holding a photo of her sweet 16, and smashed it on the floor. Glass scattered across the hardwood Mom had just had refinished for Emma's graduation party. Emma, please. Mom tried again, mascara running down her own face now. Richard, he wanted to be part of your life, both your lives, but we thought it would be too confusing. Both, Emma froze. What do you mean, both? This time the silence was suffocating. Mom looked at Dad, who wouldn't meet her eyes. Emma looked between them, her chest heaving with ragged breaths. Tell her, I said coldly. Tell her the rest. Or should we wait for Grandpa and his lawyer to explain where Emma's college fund really came from? What are you talking about? Emma's voice had gone small, childlike. Mom crumbled, the carefully constructed facade of the perfect mother finally collapsing under the weight of her lies. Richard has been sending money. For you, to help with your future. How long? Emma demanded. Since you were born, Dad said bitterly. 18 years of checks. 18 years of another man providing for my daughter. Your daughter? Emma laughed, but it was hollow broken. I'm not your daughter. I'm some stranger's daughter. Some Richard Pearson's daughter. You're our daughter, Mom insisted. Dad raised you, loved me. Emma turned to Dad. Is that what you call it? Or were you just competing with a ghost, trying to prove you were better than my real father? Dad flinched as if slapped. I did my best. Your best? I couldn't help but interject. His best was spoiling Emma rotten while treating me like furniture. His best was making me work for everything while handing her the world on a silver platter. If that's love, I'm grateful for the neglect. This isn't about you, Emma shrieked. No, then explain why Richard's money went only to you. Explain why I have student loans while you have a college fund. Explain why they threw you a $12,000 party while I got a frozen pizza. If this is just about guilty parenting, why did only one daughter benefit from it? Emma turned back to our parents, and I saw the moment the final piece clicked. The money. It was for both of us. Mom's sob was answer enough. You stole from her. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. You took money meant for Juanita and gave it all to me. We thought, Mom started. You thought what that stealing from one daughter to spoil another was good parenting, that I needed designer clothes more than she needed textbooks, that my happiness was worth more than her education. Emma laughed again, high and hysterical. Oh my God, I'm not the favorite daughter. I'm the guilt project. I'm the mistake you've been throwing money at for 18 years, hoping it would go away. She started pulling at her designer cover-up, tearing at the expensive fabric. This isn't love. These aren't gifts. They're bribes, payoffs. Hush money for a secret I didn't even know existed. Emma, no. Mom reached for her again. I said, don't touch me. Emma backed away, stumbling over the shattered glass, leaving bloody footprints on the floor. 18 years. 18 years of lies, of thinking I was special, of thinking I was loved more. But I wasn't loved at all, was I? I was just evidence of your affair that you had to keep happy so the truth wouldn't come out. That's not true, Dad said weakly. Isn't it? Emma rounded on him. Tell me one time you looked at me and didn't see him. Tell me one gift you gave that wasn't trying to prove you were my real father. Tell me one I love you that wasn't actually I'm better than him. The silence stretched until it snapped. Emma turned to me, and for the first time in our lives, I saw her really see me. Not as the boring sister, not as the competition, but as the collateral damage in our parents' war with their own guilt. "Your graduation present was a frozen pizza," she said quietly. "Yes." "My graduation party cost $12,000. "Yes." "Money that should have been yours." "Yes." "From a father I never knew existed." "Apparently?" She looked down at her bloodied feet, at the shattered frames and broken glass, surrounding her like the wreckage of her entire identity. When she looked back up, tears were streaming down her face, but they were different now. Not the practiced tears she used to get her way, but real grief for a life that had never been what she thought. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Before I could respond, she fled upstairs, leaving our parents in the ruins of their lies. Mom called after her, but Emma's door slammed with enough force to shake the house. Dad finally looked at me, really looked at me for maybe the first time in years. "Juanita, don't—" I cut him off. "Don't you dare try to reconcile now. Don't pretend that Emma learning the truth somehow makes up for 22 years of neglect. You chose to lie. You chose to steal. You chose to love one daughter with another man's money while ignoring the one who was actually yours. You don't get to play the victim now." "We never meant to hurt anyone," Mom said pathetically. "No, you meant to hurt me. You just didn't mean for anyone to find out. There's a difference." I turned to go back to my packing, but paused at the top of the stairs. "When Grandpa gets here with Richard Pearson, you might want to have a better explanation ready, because 'we never meant to hurt anyone' isn't going to cover fraud, theft, and 18 years of deception. Neither is a frozen pizza." As I returned to my room, I heard Mom whisper to Dad, "What are we going to do?" "I don't know," he replied. "God help me, I don't know." Neither did I. But for the first time in my life, that wasn't my problem to solve. I had my own future to pack for one that didn't include being the forgotten daughter in a house built on lies. Emma's sobs echoed through the walls, raw and broken. The favorite daughter learning she'd never been loved just managed. The golden child discovering her pedestal was actually a prison. And somewhere in Seattle, Grandpa Joe drove through the night with answers to questions we'd never thought to ask, and a man named Richard Pearson who'd been trying to love 2 daughters he'd never been allowed to know. Tomorrow would bring revelations. Tonight brought only the sound of our family falling apart, piece by carefully constructed piece. The frozen pizza still sat on the counter, I was sure, thawing like the cold truth of our family's foundations. But I wouldn't be the one to clean it up. Not anymore. Never again. Emma's sobs had quieted to occasional whimpers by the time Mom finally opened her laptop at the kitchen table. Dad sat across from her, his head in his hands, looking like a man watching his life unravel thread by thread. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, refusing to sit with them, but needing to see this through. "I don't even know why we're doing this," Mom said, her fingers trembling as she typed. "It's all legal. Richard set it up for Emma." "Just show me," I said flatly. The screen loaded, revealing an online banking portal I'd never seen before. Mom navigated to the accounts page, and there it was, clear as day. 2 accounts. The first, Emma Education Fund, with a balance that made my stomach turn. $237,000 in change. I couldn't finish. "Richard has been depositing $1,500 a month since Emma was born," Mom said quietly. "Plus birthday and Christmas gifts, plus bonuses from his company. It adds up." "It certainly does," I said, doing quick math. 18 years of deposits that were supposedly just for Emma. But that's strange, isn't it? Why would he send money for just 1 daughter if he thought you had 2? Mom's fingers froze over the keyboard. "Show me the other account," I demanded. With shaking hands, she clicked on the second account, Juanita Education Fund. Balance $50. The same $50 that had been there since the account was open 22 years ago. No deposits, no interest, just $50 gathering digital dust. "So you did set one up for me." I said, my voice eerily calm. You just never put anything in it. Juanita, Dad started. I'm still looking at the screen, Dad. Let me finish understanding the full scope of your betrayal before you try to justify it. I leaned over Mom's shoulder and clicked on the Emma account's transaction history. Deposit after deposit, regular as clockwork. But it was the memo lines that caught my attention. For the girls' education. College funds for both daughters. Emma and Juanita future. My hands started shaking. He sent money for both of us. No, Mom said quickly. He sent money for Emma. Those memos are just... He was confused. Click on messages I ordered. What messages? The email link. Right there. Richard's been sending messages with the deposits, hasn't he? Mom's face went white. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Open the messages. With the reluctance of someone approaching their own execution, Mom clicked the link. An email inbox opened hundreds of messages spanning 18 years. I grabbed the mouse from her and clicked on the oldest one. Diane, I've set up the automatic deposits as we discussed. $1,500 monthly should help with both girls' needs. I know I can't be there physically, but I want to ensure neither Emma nor Juanita ever struggles for opportunities. Please use this wisely for both our daughters. Both our daughters. I clicked another from 5 years later. I hope the girls are doing well. I've increased the monthly amount to account for inflation. How is Juanita doing in school? Emma must be starting to think about colleges. Please let me know if they need anything additional. They, them, both. Another from 2 years ago. I've been blessed with a substantial bonus this year. I'm sending an additional $50,000 to be split between Emma and Juanita's college funds. I know Juanita must be near graduation. Please ensure she has everything she needs for her senior year. My vision blurred, not with tears but with rage so pure it felt like ice in my veins. He sent a bonus for my senior year, I said quietly. $50,000. Want to tell me where that went? Emma's door opened upstairs. She must have heard everything because she appeared at the top of the stairs, her face swollen from crying, still leaving bloody footprints from the glass. How much? She asked hoarsely. How much of my college fund is actually Juanita's? Mom started crying again. Dad finally looked up, his face defeated. Half, he said simply. Technically, half of everything Richard sent was meant for Juanita. So, about $120,000, I calculated, give or take, that you stole from me. We didn't steal, Mom protested. What would you call it? Borrowed, misallocated, redirected. You took money someone sent for my education and spent it on Emma's Range Rover and graduation parties and designer clothes. That's theft. Emma came down the stairs slowly, wincing with each step on her cut feet. Show me more emails. I clicked through Richard's messages, each one more damning than the last. His consistent questions about both daughters, his requests for photos of both girls, his offers to help with both of their needs, and Mom's responses always deflecting, always focusing only on Emma, always with excuses about why I didn't need help. Juanita is very independent. She prefers to do things on her own. Lie after lie after lie. He asked about me. I said, my voice breaking for the first time. He wanted to help me too, and you told him I didn't need it while I was working 3 jobs to pay for textbooks. Emma reached for the laptop and searched for more recent emails. She found one from last month that made her gasp. Diane. I've been patient for 18 years, but I'm done waiting. I want to meet both my daughters. I've hired an investigator who tells me Juanita is graduating summa cum laude, despite having to work multiple jobs through college. This suggests the money I've been sending hasn't been used as I intended. We need to talk. I'll be in touch soon. Richard. He knows, Emma whispered. He's known you were lying. That's why you panicked when I mentioned his name, I realized. He's coming for his money, for answers, for us. Mom slammed the laptop shut. You don't understand what it was like. David was struggling with the knowledge that Emma wasn't his. We thought if we made sure Emma never felt different, never felt less than... So you made me feel less than instead, I finished. You took money meant for my education and used it to buy Emma's silence about a secret she didn't even know. That's not, Dad protested. Isn't it every gift, every party, every advantage you gave Emma with Richard's money was really just you trying to make sure she loved you more than him? And you used my future to finance your insecurity. Emma suddenly laughed harsh and bitter. God, we're so fucked up. I'm the affair baby who got everything because they felt guilty. You're the legitimate daughter who got nothing because they forgot you existed while managing their guilt. And our parents are thieves who stole from one daughter to bribe another into loving them. Emma. Mom looked horrified. What it's true, isn't it? Every birthday party, every shopping spree, every time you said yes to me and no to Juanita. It was all just guilt money, stolen guilt money. She looked at me with those swollen eyes. How did you stand it watching me get everything while you got nothing? I told myself you were the favorite, I admitted. That Mom and Dad just loved you more. It hurt, but at least it made sense. Finding out they don't love you at all, they just fear losing you to your real father. That they finance that fear with my future. That's worse somehow. We do love you, Mom insisted. Both of you. No, Emma said quietly. You love the idea of us. You love Emma, who doesn't know about Richard, and Juanita, who doesn't complain. But the real us, the Emma who's a stranger's daughter, and the Juanita who deserved better. You don't even know us. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures of the computer screen the account balances the emails. Evidence. What are you doing? Dad demanded. Protecting myself, the way I've always had to. Grandpa said to document everything, so I am. You can't. This is private family business. Private. I laughed. You made it public when you stole from me, when you committed fraud, when you took money meant for my education and spent it on Emma's car. This stopped being private family business and became potential criminal charges about $100,000 ago. Mom's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and paled even further. It's Richard. We all froze. The ghost they'd been running from for 18 years was calling, and there was nowhere left to hide. Answer it, Emma said suddenly. I want to talk to my father, my real father, the one who actually wanted to provide for me instead of just using me to compete with him. Emma, please. Answer it. With shaking hands, Mom accepted the call and put it on speaker. Diane. The voice was deep, controlled, professional. I understand there's been some revelations tonight. My contact tells me Juanita knows the truth. Your contact, Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I've had someone watching, making sure my money was being used appropriately. Imagine my surprise to discover it wasn't. That Juanita worked herself to exhaustion while Emma lived like a princess on funds meant for both of them. Richard, I can explain. No need. I'll be there tomorrow with your father, Joe. We have quite a bit to discuss, including fraud charges, custody arrangements, and how we're going to make this right for both of my daughters. Custody. Dad finally spoke up. Emma is 18. There's no custody to discuss. No, but there's 18 years of stolen funds to discuss. 18 years of denying me access to my children. 18 years of lies. My lawyers tell me that's worth discussing. Wouldn't you agree? Emma grabbed the phone. Is this Richard? A pause. Then softly, Emma. My God, is that you? Yeah. Her voice cracked. It's me, the daughter you've been paying for but never met. The one they kept from you while spending your money. I've wanted to meet you for so long, both you and your sister. Are you all right? Emma looked at me then at our parents who sat like statues at the table. No, but I think I might be. Tomorrow. Tomorrow? Richard agreed. We'll fix this. All of it. I promise you that. The call ended, leaving us in silence. The family that had started the day with a frozen pizza and a sticky note was ending it with fraud theft and the complete destruction of every lie that had held us together. I need to pack. Emma said quietly, looking at her bloody feet. "I can't stay here, not with them, not after this." "Where will you go?" Mom asked desperately. Emma looked at me, something new in her eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Would you let me come with you? Wherever you're going, I know I don't deserve it after everything, but I studied my sister, the golden child with her tarnished crown, the favorite daughter learning she'd never been loved, just managed, the girl who'd gotten everything except the truth. "I don't know where I'm going," I admitted. "But yeah, you can come. We both need to get out of here." For the first time in our lives, Emma and I were on the same side, united not by blood or love, but by the betrayal of the two people who should have protected us both. As we headed upstairs to pack, leaving our parents with their laptop full of evidence and their lifetime of lies, I heard Dad whisper, "How did we get here?" "One deposit at a time," Mom answered. "One lie at a time. One frozen pizza at a time," I thought. One graduation ignored, one future stolen, one daughter forgotten, while another was smothered. Tomorrow, Grandpa and Richard would arrive with lawyers and consequences. Tonight, Emma and I would pack our lives into suitcases and prepare to leave the only home we'd ever known. The difference was, I'd been preparing to leave for 22 years. Emma was just getting started. Dawn broke gray and hesitant over our neighborhood, as if even the sun was reluctant to witness what was coming. Emma and I sat on my bedroom floor, surrounded by suitcases and the debris of our former lives. She'd barely slept, alternating between fury and grief, sometimes crying so hard I thought she might shatter. 23 years, she kept whispering. Dad raised me for 23 years, knowing I wasn't his. 18, I corrected gently. "You're 18. "I know how old I am." She snapped, then softer. "Sorry, I can't do math right now. I can't do anything right now." We'd bandaged her feet, pulling glass shards out with tweezers, while she bit down on a washcloth to keep from screaming. Not from the physical pain, but from everything else. The girl who'd had professional pedicures every 2 weeks was learning what it felt like to bleed. A car engine rumbled outside, distinctive and familiar. Grandpa's old Ford pickup, the one he'd refused to replace, despite having the money for something newer. "Still runs fine," he'd always said. "No point fixing what ain't broken." Unlike our family, which had been broken so long we'd mistaken the cracks for decoration. Emma grabbed my hand as we heard the truck door slam, then another door, then 2 more. Grandpa hadn't come alone. "I'm scared," Emma whispered. "Now you know how I've felt my whole life," I said, not unkindly. Scared of not being enough, scared of being invisible, scared of loving people who couldn't see me. We heard the front door open downstairs. Grandpa still had his key. "Joe, you can't just barge in." Mom's voice high and panicked. "I own this house, Diane. I can barge wherever I damn well please." Grandpa's voice was iron. "Where are my granddaughters?" "We're here," I called, helping Emma to her feet. She winced but stayed upright. We descended the stairs together to find our living room transformed into what looked like a legal conference. Grandpa stood in the center, looking every one of his 72 years, but somehow more formidable than ever. Beside him, a woman in a sharp suit held a briefcase that probably cost more than my car. A younger man with a laptop sat on the couch, fingers already flying over keys. And by the window staring out at the backyard where Emma's graduation party had been held just days ago, stood a man who could only be Richard Pearson. He was tall, lean, with silver threading through dark hair. When he turned, Emma gasped. The resemblance was undeniable. Her eyes, her nose, the way he held his shoulders. This was her father, and DNA didn't lie the way people did. "Emma," he said softly. "Juanita." Emma took a half step forward, then stopped, torn between the father who'd raised her and the father she'd never known existed. 23 years, Grandpa said without preamble. 23 years I've let you live in this house rent-free. The agreement was simple. Take care of both my granddaughters equally. Seems like you forgot the equally part. Joe, it's more complicated than that, Dad started. Is it? The lawyer spoke for the first time. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty simple. Fraud, embezzlement, theft. Shall I continue? Who are you? Mom demanded. Patricia Chen, Mr. Peterson's attorney. The young man on your couch is Marcus Webb, forensic accountant. We've spent the night going through some very interesting financial records. You can't just go through our finances, Dad protested. Actually, we can, Marcus said without looking up from his screen. When Mr. Pearson noticed discrepancies in how his educational deposits were being used, he obtained a court order. What we found is illuminating. Richard finally spoke, his voice controlled, but with an undercurrent of fury. $237,000. That's what I sent over 18 years for both daughters' education. Care to explain why Juanita's account has $50? We used it for Emma, Mom said weakly, for her needs. Her needs. Richard's control slipped. What needs required stealing from one daughter to spoil another, which needs demanded designer clothes while Juanita worked 3 jobs, which needs justified a $12,000 party, while Juanita got a frozen pizza. Don't lecture us about parenting. Dad found his spine at the worst possible moment. You weren't here. You didn't raise her. I did. Because you threatened me with a restraining order if I tried to contact them, Richard shot back. Because you told me I'd ruin their lives if I showed up. Because you promised to love them both as your own if I stayed away. We did love them. You loved Emma because you were scared of losing her to me. You ignored Juanita because she was too much yours to ever leave. That's not love. That's possession. Emma made a sound like a wounded animal. I put my arm around her and she leaned into me, 2 sisters finally united by shared betrayal. Let's talk numbers, Patricia said crisply. Half of Richard's deposits were designated for Juanita. That's approximately $118,000 in stolen funds. Add interest penalties for fraud and damages, for educational opportunities lost, and we're looking at close to $200,000. $200,000, Mom went white. We don't have that kind of money. No. Marcus looked up from his laptop. Because I'm seeing some interesting expenses here. $12,000 for a party, $45,000 for a car, European vacations, shopping sprees. Seems like you had money when it was for Emma. Stop, Emma said suddenly. Please just stop. Everyone turned to look at her. She stood straighter, despite her bandaged feet looking more like Richard than she ever had like Dad. I'll pay it back, she said. All of it. Every penny they stole from Juanita came to me, so I'll pay it back. Emma, no, I protested. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? She laughed bitterly. I knew something was wrong. Deep down, I knew. Normal families don't give one kid everything and the other nothing. Normal parents don't panic when their child asks for equality. I knew, and I enjoyed it anyway. You were a child, Richard said gently. This isn't your responsibility. Maybe not legally, Emma said. But morally, every party, every gift, every time they said yes to me and no to her, I benefited from theft. That makes me responsible. She turned to our parents. I want my college fund transferred to Juanita, all of it. Emma, Mom gasped. You can't. I can. It's technically my money, right? Richard sent it for me, so I'm giving it to my sister. The one who earned a degree while I was spending her money on spring break trips. That's very noble, Patricia said, clearly surprised. But there are tax implications. I don't care, Emma said firmly. Juanita has student loans because of me, because of them, because of our sick family dynamic. I want to make it right. There's also the matter of the house, Grandpa spoke up. The trust is very clear. Equal treatment or the arrangement is void. You're evicting us, Dad asked in disbelief. I'm enforcing the terms you agreed to. You have 30 days to find alternative housing. 30 days. Mom started crying again. Joe, please, we're family. Family. Grandpa's voice could have frozen hell. Family doesn't steal from children. Family doesn't lie for decades. Family doesn't celebrate one granddaughter while leaving the other to work herself to death. You stopped being family the first time you deposited Richard's money and told Juanita there wasn't enough for her textbooks. "Where will we go?" Mom wailed. "That's not my problem anymore," Grandpa said coldly. "Maybe you can stay with Emma's friend Sophia. I heard her parents throw great pool parties." Richard cleared his throat. "There's one more thing. I want a relationship with both my daughters. No courts, no custody battles since Emma's of age. But I want the chance you denied me for 18 years. He looked at Emma, then at me. "I know I'm not your father, Juanita, but I sent that money for you too. In my mind, you were both my responsibility. I'd like to get to know you if you'll let me." I felt Emma stiffen beside me, waiting for my answer. This man who'd tried to provide for me without knowing me, who'd asked about me in emails that were never answered honestly, who'd wanted to help with my education while my actual parents let me struggle. "Okay," I said simply, "we can try." Richard's face transformed with a smile that looked exactly like Emma's rare, genuine ones. "Thank you, both of you." He turned to our parents. "As for you two, my lawyers will be in touch. Fraud charges are still on the table unless you cooperate fully with making this right." "So that's it?" Dad asked bitterly. 23 years of raising your daughter and you're going to destroy us." "You destroyed yourselves," Grandpa said. "One lie at a time, one stolen dollar at a time, one frozen pizza at a time." He turned to Emma and me. "Get your things. You're coming with me until we sort out proper housing. Richard's offered to help with apartments near your schools." "I'm dropping out," Emma said suddenly. "Community college. I was only at university for the parties anyway. Time I earned something for real." "We'll discuss it," Richard said gently. "There's time for all of that." As Emma and I headed back upstairs for our suitcases, we heard Mom's last desperate plea. "How can you do this to us? We're your daughters." "No." Grandpa's voice was final. "Juanita and Emma are my granddaughters. You're just people who lived in my house and forgot what family means." We grabbed our bags, Emma limping but determined. As we passed my parents' room, I saw their bed hadn't been slept in. They'd spent the night at the kitchen table, probably trying to figure out how to explain the inexplicable. "Ready?" I asked Emma at the top of the stairs. "No," she admitted. "But I haven't been ready for anything real my whole life. Might as well start now." We descended together, leaving behind the house of lies for an uncertain but honest future. Grandpa took our bags while Richard helped Emma with her injured feet. The lawyer and accountant packed up their evidence of 18 years of deception. As we reached the door, I turned back one last time. Mom and Dad sat at the kitchen table looking smaller and older than I'd ever seen them. On the counter behind them, the frozen pizza had been thrown away, but the sticky note remained on the floor where it had fallen. "Congrats, grad," he mocked in Mom's cheerful handwriting. I left it there, a monument to the childhood I'd never had and the future they'd tried to steal. But you can't steal what someone's already earned, and I'd earned my freedom one sleepless night, one double shift, one lonely celebration at a time. "Come on, sweetheart," Grandpa said gently. "Time to go." I followed my family, my real family, out the door. Emma limping but upright. Grandpa righteous in his anger. Richard trying to reclaim 18 lost years. And me finally visible, finally valued, finally free. Behind us, the house that had never been a home stood silent, waiting for new tenants who might remember what equality meant. And somewhere in that silence, 2 thieves sat with the bill for their crimes, learning that love shouldn't come with a price tag, and when it does, someone always pays. Today, for the first time, it wouldn't be me. We sat in a private dining room at the Marriott downtown, the 5 of us around a table that could have seated 12. Richard had insisted on breakfast, though none of us had much appetite. Emma picked at scrambled eggs while I nursed black coffee, both of us trying to process the stranger across from us who'd been sending money our entire lives. "I need you both to understand something," Richard began setting down his own untouched coffee. I didn't abandon you, either of you. That's the first lie your parents told, and maybe the cruelest. He pulled out his phone and showed us a photo, a younger version of himself holding a baby, his face radiant with joy. That's me with Emma 3 days after she was born. I was there despite your father threatening to call security. I held you, Emma. I told you I loved you and that I'd always take care of you. Emma's eyes filled with tears. They said you left, that you didn't want the responsibility. I wanted everything, Richard said firmly. I wanted to marry your mother. I wanted to raise you. When she told me she was pregnant, I was terrified but thrilled. I'd already started planning, converting my home office to a nursery, researching the best schools, everything first-time fathers do. So what happened? I asked. Richard's expression darkened. David happened. Your mother was seeing us both, though I didn't know it. When she found out she was pregnant, she panicked. The timing meant I was definitely the father, but she'd already accepted David's proposal. She was engaged to Dad while pregnant with me. Emma looked sick. For about a month, yes. When she finally told me, she said she'd chosen David because he was stable. I was building my company, then working 100-hour weeks. David had a government job with good benefits. She thought he'd be the better provider. He laughed bitterly, ironic considering how that turned out. Grandpa, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. I never knew any of this. Diane told me they'd had a courthouse wedding because they were in love and couldn't wait. They had a courthouse wedding because Emma was showing, Richard corrected. And because Diane needed to lock David in before he could change his mind about raising another man's child. But you kept sending money, I pointed out, for 18 years. Why? Richard looked directly at me. Because 3 months after Emma was born, I hired a private investigator. I needed to know my daughter was okay. That's when I learned about you, Juanita. Diane had another daughter just 3 years old, and from what my investigator could see, you were being pushed aside for the new baby. He pulled out a manila folder and slid it across the table. Inside were photographs spanning years. Emma's first birthday party with ponies and a bounce house. In the background, barely visible 3-year-old me sitting alone on the porch steps. Emma's dance recital with the whole family in the front row while I stood in the back holding her costume bag. Christmas morning, Emma surrounded by presents while I held a single book. Your investigator took these, I asked, disturbed but oddly moved. Every milestone he could capture. I watched you grow up from afar, Juanita. Watched you excel despite being ignored. Watched you work jobs no teenager should have to work while Emma got everything handed to her. And the guilt nearly killed me. Guilt, Emma asked. Why would you feel guilty about Juanita? Because my existence in your life, even just financially, created the imbalance. They overcompensated with you because of me and undercompensated with Juanita because she was David's. I was trying to help both of you, but instead I became the reason one thrived while the other survived. He showed us more documents, emails he'd sent to Mom over the years, all mentioning both daughters. Her responses growing more evasive over time. Then 5 years ago, a cease and desist letter from a lawyer. They threatened to file harassment charges if I kept trying to contact you, Richard explained. Said I was disrupting your lives, causing emotional distress. The lawyer suggested I could be seen as a stalker since I'd hired investigators. So I backed off. Kept sending money, kept hoping, but stopped pushing. Until now, Grandpa said. Until now. Richard agreed. When my investigator told me about Juanita's graduation and how they'd treated it, something in me snapped. 18 years of patience gone. No child should receive a frozen pizza for graduating summa cum laude, while their sister gets a party worth more than some weddings. Emma pushed her eggs around her plate. Were you ever going to tell me if this hadn't happened? I tried when you turned 18. Sent a letter to the house-registered mail. Your mother signed for it, but you never responded. I never saw any letter, Emma said. Of course you didn't. Richard's jaw tightened. Just like Juanita never saw the birthday cards I sent or the graduation gift I tried to deliver to her high school. You sent me things, I asked, stunned. Every birthday, every Christmas, always addressed to both of you, always returned to sender or signed for and hidden. I have them all in storage. 18 years of cards and gifts you never received. The lawyer Patricia, who'd been quiet through breakfast, spoke up. We have documentation of everything. Every returned package, every intercepted letter, every deposit that was meant for both girls. It's enough for several criminal charges if we choose to pursue them. I don't want them in jail, Emma said quickly. They're still the only parents I've known. But they're not the only parents you have, Richard said gently. Not anymore. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. Speaking of which, there's someone else who wants to meet you, both of you. Who? Emma asked warily. My wife. Your stepmother, technically. She's known about you since we started dating 15 years ago. She's the one who encouraged me to keep trying, keep sending money, keep hoping that someday I'd get to have this breakfast. You're married. Emma seemed to be recalculating everything again. For 12 years, we have 2 children, your half-siblings, 10-year-old twins named Marcus and Melody. Emma's face went white. I have siblings other than Juanita. You have a whole family you've never met, Richard said softly, who've been waiting to meet you. Melody has your picture in her room, one my investigator took at your school play. She calls you her secret sister. Emma started crying, then really crying. Not the pretty tears she'd perfected for manipulation, but raw, ugly sobs. I have a family, a real family that actually wanted me. We always wanted you, Richard said, tears in his own eyes. Even when we couldn't have you. I watched this reunion feeling strangely detached. This wasn't my father, wasn't my family. But then, Richard turned to me. Juanita. I know I'm nothing to you biologically, but I've thought of you as my daughter for 20 years. Every report card my investigator obtained, every achievement, every struggle. I celebrated and worried like any father would. If you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your life too. Not as a father, if that's too much, but as someone who cares. Someone who's proud of you. Why? I asked honestly. I'm not your responsibility. Neither of you were my responsibility, Richard said. You were my choice. I chose to care about both of you, to provide for both of you, to worry about both of you. Biology doesn't make a father. Choice does. And I chose you too, Juanita. From the moment I saw that photo of you alone on those porch steps, I chose you too. Grandpa reached over and squeezed my hand. Family's about more than blood, sweetheart. It's about who shows up. And I'm showing up now, Richard continued. 18 years late, but I'm here. For both of you, if you'll have me. Emma looked at me seeking permission or solidarity, I wasn't sure which. This man who'd tried to love us from afar, whose money had created such inequality, whose absence had shaped our lives in different but equally profound ways. I need time, I said finally. This is a lot to process. Of course, Richard said immediately. I'm not going anywhere. I've waited 18 years. I can wait as long as you need. His phone buzzed again. This time he smiled. My wife's in the lobby with the twins. They couldn't wait any longer. Would either of you like to meet them? Emma nodded immediately, then looked at me again. Juanita. I thought about the family I'd grown up in, where love was transactional and worth was measured in receipts. Then I looked at Richard, who'd kept trying for 18 years, despite threats and rejection. At Grandpa, who'd driven through the night to defend granddaughters he saw too rarely. At Emma, finally seeing me as a sister rather than competition. Okay, I said, let's meet them. Richard's face lit up like Emma's graduation fireworks. He sent a quick text, and moments later, the door opened. An elegant woman entered holding hands with 2 children who were clearly trying to contain their excitement. The boy looked like a miniature Richard, all sharp angles and intelligent eyes. The girl was Emma, in miniature. Same hair, same eyes, same tentative smile. Emma Juanita. The woman's voice was warm. I'm Sarah. These are Marcus and Melody. Melody broke free and ran to Emma, stopping just short of hugging her. "Are you really my sister?" Emma knelt despite her injured feet, putting herself at eye level with the child. "Yeah, I guess I am. Dad has your picture in his office. He looks at it when he thinks we're not watching. Sometimes he looks sad." "I'm here now," Emma said softly. "We're both here now." Marcus approached more cautiously, but his eyes were on me. "Dad says you're super smart, that you graduated with perfect grades even though things were hard. That's really cool." "Thanks." I managed, overwhelmed by this child who'd apparently heard about my achievements from a father who wasn't even mine. Sarah moved closer to Richard, and I saw how they fit together, comfortable and united. "We've wanted this for so long," she said to us. "Richard's told us so much about both of you. You've always been part of our family in our hearts." "Even me?" I asked. "I'm not." "You're the daughter Richard chose," Sarah said firmly. "That makes you ours as much as Emma, if you want to be." The twins were chattering now, Marcus asking about college, while Melody showed Emma photos on an iPad. "This is your room," she was saying. "Dad set it up years ago. He said someday you'd visit. Is someday today?" Richard cleared his throat, emotion thick in his voice. "We have a house in Bellevue. Plenty of room. You're both welcome anytime. To visit, to stay, whatever you need." "Can they come for dinner tonight?" Melody asked eagerly. "Please, we could have a real family dinner." I looked around the table, at Grandpa nodding encouragingly, at Richard and Sarah hopeful but patient, at the twins vibrating with excitement, at Emma holding Melody's hand like a lifeline, her face showing more genuine happiness than I'd ever seen. This was messy and complicated, and nothing like the family I'd imagined having someday. But it was real, and it was here, and they were choosing us, both of us, exactly as we were. "I like spaghetti," I told Melody, who squealed with delight. "I love spaghetti. Mom makes the best garlic bread. Do you like garlic bread?" As the conversation flowed around me, planning dinner and sharing stories, I felt something I'd never experienced in my parents' house: belonging. Not because I'd earned it or worked for it, but simply because I existed, and that was enough. Richard caught my eye and mouthed, "Thank you." I nodded back, understanding finally that family wasn't about DNA or legal documents or even 18 years of stolen money. It was about showing up. And after 18 years of absence, everyone who mattered was finally here. The hotel conference room felt like a courtroom with Patricia Chen and Marcus Webb on one side of the table, my parents and their hastily hired lawyer on the other. Emma and I sat with Richard and Grandpa, while Sarah had taken the twins to the zoo to spare them from what was about to unfold. Mom looked like she'd aged a decade overnight. Dad sat rigid, his jaw clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grinding. Their lawyer, a nervous man named Carl Brennan, who'd probably never handled anything more complex than traffic tickets, shuffled papers with shaking hands. "Let's start with the facts," Patricia said, sliding a thick folder across the table. Over 18 years, Mr. Pearson deposited $237,000, intended for the education and welfare of both Emma and Juanita Martinez. These funds were systematically diverted solely to Emma's benefit, while Juanita was forced to work multiple jobs to afford basic educational necessities. "We didn't force her to work," Mom protested weakly. "No, you just told her there was no money for her textbooks while buying Emma a $45,000 car, with funds specifically sent for both daughters." Marcus interjected, pulling up spreadsheets on his laptop. "Would you like me to itemize every expenditure? I have receipts." "That money was for Emma," Dad insisted. "Richard is her father." "The deposits clearly state they were for both girls," Patricia cut him off. "We have emails, bank memos, and written correspondence all confirming Mr. Pearson's intent. You committed fraud, Mr. Martinez. Federal fraud since the money crossed state lines." Carl Brennan cleared his throat nervously. "My clients maintain they believe the money was solely for Emma's benefit." "Their belief doesn't change the evidence," Patricia said coldly, nor does it explain why they actively lied to Mr. Pearson about Juanita's needs, told him she had full scholarships when she didn't, and hid her financial struggles while spending his money on luxury items for Emma. She pulled out another document. Let's talk about specific expenditures. Emma's Sweet 16 party, $8,000. Juanita's Sweet 16, nothing. Emma's car, $45,000. Juanita's car bought herself with money from 3 part-time jobs. Emma's graduation party, $12,000. Juanita's graduation, a frozen pizza. Each comparison hit like a physical blow. Mom flinched. Dad's face grew redder. But the most damning evidence, Patricia continued, is this email from Mrs. Martinez to Mr. Pearson, dated 3 years ago. Would you like me to read it aloud? No, Mom whispered. I think we should, for the record. Patricia's voice was ruthless. Richard, please stop asking about Juanita. She's not your concern. The money you send is for Emma, your biological daughter. Juanita has her father and doesn't need or want your charity. Focus on the child that's actually yours. I felt Emma's hand find mine under the table. But Mr. Pearson's response was quite clear, wasn't it? Patricia pulled out another email. Diane, I've told you repeatedly that I consider both girls my responsibility. Emma, because she's mine by blood, and Juanita, because she's Emma's sister and deserves equal opportunities. Please use the funds for both daughters as we've discussed for 15 years. Also, I'd like to see recent photos of both girls and updates on Juanita's college applications. To which you responded by threatening a restraining order if he didn't stop harassing you about Juanita, Patricia finished. Carl Brennan was sweating now. Perhaps we could discuss a settlement. We've prepared one, Patricia said, sliding another document across. Full restitution of funds meant for Juanita $118,500, plus interest and penalties, $81,500, total $200,000 even. We don't have that kind of money, Dad exploded. No. Marcus turned his laptop around. Because I'm seeing 6 vacations to Europe in the last 5 years, a kitchen renovation that cost $30,000, a pool installation. Shall I continue? That's our house, Mom cried. Actually, it's my house. Grandpa spoke for the first time, which you'll be vacating in 30 days as per our original agreement. Maybe you can sell some of Emma's jewelry to cover the debt. I counted at least $50,000 in gifts over the years. Emma straightened beside me. I already said I'd pay it. Transfer my entire college fund to Juanita. It's all stolen money anyway. Emma, no. I started, but she shook her head. It's right, Juanita. It's the only thing that makes this right. She turned to our parents. Unless you'd rather go to jail because that's the alternative, isn't it? Patricia nodded. Federal fraud charges carry significant prison time. Plus, there's the matter of intercepting mail addressed to minors, which is also federal. And the emotional distress claims. You'd really send us to prison? Mom asked Richard, tears streaming down her face. After everything I gave birth to your child. You stole from children, Richard said quietly. You stole money, yes, but worse. You stole opportunities. You stole Juanita's peace of mind, her ability to focus on studies instead of survival. You stole 18 years of my relationship with both daughters. You stole Emma's chance to know her biological father and her siblings. You stole their relationship with each other by creating false competition. So yes, Diane, I'd see you prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. However, Patricia interjected, Mr. Pearson is willing to consider alternatives if full restitution is made. The house, Dad said suddenly, we'll sell the house. It's not yours to sell, Grandpa reminded him. Then we'll liquidate everything. Retirement accounts. Everything. Dad's shoulders slumped in defeat. Just, please, no criminal charges. I'm a federal employee. I'd lose everything. You should have thought of that before you stole from children, Richard said coldly. Then he looked at me. But this is Juanita's decision. She's the one you robbed. All eyes turned to me. The daughter they'd ignored for 22 years suddenly held their fate in my hands. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I want the money for my student loans," I said finally. "All of it. I want Emma's college fund transferred to her name, only not mine. She shouldn't lose her education because of your crimes. And I want you both to attend family therapy, real therapy, to understand what you did." "That's generous," Patricia said, clearly surprised. "I'm not done," I continued. "I also want written apologies, real ones, acknowledging what you did and why it was wrong. I want you to tell the truth to everyone who attended Emma's graduation party about why I got a frozen pizza. I want accountability." "You want us to humiliate ourselves?" Mom gasped. "No, I want you to be honest. For once in your lives, be honest about what you did and why." I looked at them, these strangers who'd raised me. "You humiliated me every day for 22 years. Every time you celebrated Emma and ignored me. Every time you lied about why there was money for her but not for me. Every time you made me feel like I was worth less than my sister. One day of honesty seems like a small price. And if we refuse," Dad asked. "Then Ms. Chen files charges Monday morning," Richard said simply. "Your choice." The silence stretched until Carl Brennan whispered urgently to my parents. Finally, they nodded. "We'll do it," Mom said brokenly. "All of it. Just please, no charges." Patricia produced more documents. "Sign here and here. This transfers the funds, agrees to the therapy requirement, and acknowledges the debt. You have 90 days to pay in full." As they signed, their hands shaking, I felt no satisfaction, just emptiness where rage had been. Emma leaned against me. "You could have destroyed them." "They destroyed themselves," I echoed Grandpa's words. "I just want to be free of them." "Me too," Emma whispered. "Me too." Richard stood as the last signature was completed. "We're done here. Juanita, Emma. I have meetings this afternoon, but dinner is at 6. Sarah's making her famous lasagna." "Lasagna," I corrected. Melody said spaghetti, but I like lasagna too. He smiled, the tension breaking slightly. "Lasagna it is." As we prepared to leave, Mom made one last desperate attempt. "Juanita, Emma, please. We're still your parents. We love you." Emma stood slowly, favoring her bandaged feet. "No, you're the people who raised us. There's a difference between raising and parenting, between housing and loving. You housed us. You managed us. But love doesn't steal. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't pick favorites and leave the other to struggle." "We made mistakes," Dad started. "You made choices," I corrected. "Every day for 22 years, you chose. You chose Emma over me. You chose lies over truth. You chose comfort over fairness. Now live with those choices." We left them there with their lawyer and their documents and their decimated future. In the elevator, Emma finally broke down, completely sobbing into my shoulder. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "I'm so sorry for everything." "I know," I said, holding my sister for the first time in memory. "I know." Grandpa put his arms around both of us. "Come on, girls, let's go home." "Where's home?" Emma asked through her tears. "Wherever we make it," Richard said softly, "together." As we walked out of the hotel into the afternoon sun, I thought about the frozen pizza that started this avalanche. Such a small thing to destroy a family. But it wasn't really about the pizza. It was about 22 years of small things adding up to one big truth. Love shouldn't have a price tag. And for the first time in my life, I was rich in all the ways that mattered. Not because of the money that would soon pay off my loans, but because I'd found people who saw my worth without checking my balance first. The frozen pizza was gone. The sticky note was trash. But I was still here, still standing, finally valued by people who knew that the best things in life, like love, like family, like justice, should never come with conditions. Emma squeezed my hand as we walked toward Grandpa's truck. "Partners." "Sisters," I corrected. "Finally, actually sisters." And for two girls who'd grown up in the same house, but different worlds, that was worth more than all the stolen money in the world. That evening, in Richard and Sarah's warm kitchen that smelled of garlic and basil, Emma sat across from me at the breakfast bar while Sarah bustled around preparing dinner. The twins were in the living room with Richard, their laughter echoing through the open floor plan. Everything about this house felt different. Lived in, loved, and honest. Emma hadn't spoken much since we'd arrived. She'd been staring at her hands, picking at the designer manicure that now seemed to mock her with its perfection. 22 years, she finally whispered. You lived in that house for 22 years feeling like you didn't matter, and I never saw it. How did I never see it? You saw what they wanted you to see, I said carefully. A narrative where you deserved more because you were special. But I wasn't special, her voice cracked. I was a guilt payment. Every gift, every party, every yes they gave me. It was all just them trying to make sure I never questioned why Dad looked at me different sometimes, why Mom would get weird when people said I had Richard's eyes. She suddenly grabbed her phone and started scrolling through her Instagram. Look at this. Just look at it. She turned the screen toward me. Hundreds of posts. Emma at her sweet 16, Emma in her new car, Emma at graduation, Emma on vacation. You're in maybe 10 photos out of 1,000, and always in the background, always holding my stuff or waiting in the car or, God, Juanita, I turned you into my servant, didn't I? Emma. No, let me say this, please. Tears were flowing freely now, no concern for her makeup. Remember when you got into MIT, the early acceptance? I nodded. It had been one of the biggest moments of my life. I threw a tantrum that day because Mom wouldn't let me skip school to go shopping. I made such a scene that they forgot to even mention your acceptance at dinner. You'd gotten into MIT and we spent the evening talking about how unfair it was that I had to attend all my classes to graduate. You didn't know. I should have known. Emma slammed her hand on the counter. Normal families don't work like that. Jenny's sister got into state and they threw a party. Madison's brother made the football team and their parents ordered a cake. You got into MIT and got nothing, and I never once thought that was strange. Sarah paused in her cooking, watching us with knowing eyes. She'd been through this with Richard, I realized. The guilt of benefiting from someone else's loss. Emma pulled up another photo. Her high school graduation party. $12,000. Do you know what I remember most about that day, complaining that the cake wasn't exactly the shade of blue I wanted? While you were giving a valedictorian speech to empty chairs, I was upset about fondant. You couldn't have known they weren't there. But I knew they were supposed to be. I knew your graduation was the same day. I heard Mom on the phone making excuses, and I didn't care because Sophia's pool party sounded more fun than sitting through a long ceremony. She looked at me with haunted eyes. I chose a pool party over your college graduation. What kind of sister does that? The kind raised to believe she mattered more, I said honestly. This isn't all on you, Emma. Isn't it? She laughed bitterly. When did I ever stand up for you? When did I ever say this isn't fair? Or what about Juanita? Never. Because I liked being the favorite. I liked getting everything I wanted. I liked being the princess while you were Cinderella, I supplied. I was going to say the help, but yeah, Cinderella works. She pulled up more photos, scrolling through years of excess. Do you remember my 13th birthday? How could I forget they'd rented out an entire restaurant, hired a DJ, bought her 13 gifts to match her age? You'd just started your period that day, Emma continued. I know because I saw the blood on your jeans when you were cleaning up after my party. You were in pain cramping and Mom made you keep serving drinks because Emma only turns 13 once. I was surprised she'd noticed. You remember that? I remember thinking you were being dramatic, that you were trying to steal attention from my special day. She dropped her phone, unable to look at more evidence. I was a monster. They created a monster, and I let them because it felt good to be special. You were a child. I was a brat. a spoiled, entitled brat who watched my sister work 3 jobs and thought she must not be smart enough to have it easier. Emma's voice turned savage with self-hatred. Do you know what I told people when they asked about you? I said you were antisocial, that you chose to work instead of having fun. I painted you as this boring workaholic who didn't know how to enjoy life when really you were just trying to survive. Melody bounced into the kitchen, breaking the tension. Is dinner ready? I'm starving. Sarah smoothed her daughter's hair. Almost, sweetie. Why don't you show Emma your room, the one Daddy decorated for her? Emma looked uncertain, but Melody grabbed her hand. Come on, it's been waiting for you forever. After they left, Sarah turned to me. She needs to work through this. The guilt stage is important. You went through this with Richard. Sarah nodded. When we met, he was still sending money to your mother. I knew about both of you from our first date. The guilt was eating him alive. Knowing his money was creating the very inequality he was trying to prevent. It took years of therapy for him to forgive himself. Do you think Emma will? That depends on what she does next. Guilt without action is just self-pity. But guilt that leads to change, that's growth. Emma returned, looking shaken. There are pictures of both of us in that room, school photos he somehow got, certificates of achievement, my dance recital photo next to Juanita's science fair win. Equal. Displayed equally. That's all Richard ever wanted, Sarah said gently. Equality for both his girls. But I'm the reason there wasn't equality, Emma said. My existence destroyed Juanita's childhood. No, I said firmly. Our parents' choices destroyed my childhood. You were just a baby, then a child, then a teenager who knew nothing different. You're only responsible for what you do now that you know the truth. Emma studied me. How are you not angrier? How are you sitting here making dinner with me instead of, I don't know, celebrating that I finally got what I deserved? Because what you deserved was the truth, I said. And that's what you got. The rest, the guilt, the revelation, the horror at our family, that's just consequence. And honestly, I'm tired of anger. 22 years of it is exhausting. I need to make this right, Emma said suddenly. Not just the money, everything. But I don't know how. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Dad says dinner's ready. He paused, looking at Emma's tears. Are you sad? Mom says sometimes family makes us sad before it makes us happy. Your mom's smart. Emma managed. She is, Marcus agreed seriously. She also makes really good lasagna and garlic bread and Caesar salad. Come on. We moved to the dining room where Richard had set the table with good china. Not the formal kind meant to impress, but the kind families actually used. Melody had made place cards with everyone's names in glitter. Emma's and mine were decorated with extra hearts. I've been waiting my whole life for this, Melody announced as we sat down. A real family dinner with all my siblings. All? Emma asked. Well, Marcus is annoying, but you and Juanita are perfect, Melody said matter-of-factly, making everyone laugh. Hey, Marcus protested, I'm not annoying. You put lizards in my backpack. Those were rubber lizards, and it was funny. As the siblings bickered good-naturedly, I caught Emma watching them with wonder. This was what normal looked like. This was what we'd missed. I want to learn, Emma said suddenly, how to be normal, how to be a real sister, how to be part of a family that doesn't keep score. The first rule, Richard said, passing the salad, is that everyone serves themselves. No one waits while others eat. We share equally. It was such a small thing, but Emma's eyes filled with tears again as she realized she'd never served herself at home. Either Mom had filled her plate with the best portions, or I had served her. She'd never had to think about leaving enough for others. The second rule, Sarah added, is that we talk about our days, good and bad. Everyone gets a turn. Even the bad parts, Emma asked. Especially the bad parts, Richard said. That's how families support each other. As we went around the table sharing our days, I watched Emma struggle with the concept. She started to default to her practice stories, the kind designed to make her look good, but stopped. I found out I'm not who I thought I was. she said finally, that my whole life was built on lies and stolen money, that I hurt the only real sister I have by existing. It was the worst day of my life, but also maybe the best, because now I know the truth, and I got to meet all of you, and... She looked at me. Juanita doesn't hate me, which is more than I deserve. I could never hate you, I said softly. You're my sister. But I was terrible to you. You were lied to. We both were. But we're here now with people who want to do better. That's what matters. Melody reached over and patted Emma's hand. In this family, we love each other even when we make mistakes. Right, Daddy? Right, Princess, Richard said, his voice thick. Even when we make mistakes. Especially then, Sarah added, squeezing Richard's hand. As dinner continued, I watched Emma slowly relax, watched her learn to pass dishes instead of having them handed to her, watched her listen to others' stories without trying to top them, watched her exist in a space where she wasn't the most important person in the room and discover that it didn't diminish her. Can I ask something? Emma said as we cleared the table together, another first for her. What was it like all those years, really? I considered lying, softening it to spare her guilt, but we'd had enough lies. Lonely, I admitted. Like being a ghost in my own home, like nothing I did would ever be enough to be seen. I used to think if I just achieved more, worked harder, complained less, maybe I'd earn what you got for free. But that was the problem. Love shouldn't have to be earned. Emma stopped dishes in hand. I want to do better. I want to earn your forgiveness even if I couldn't earn their love. That's the thing, I said. Forgiveness isn't earned either. It's given, and I give it freely. Not for them, not even for you, but for me. Because carrying anger is heavy, and I've carried enough. How are you this good? Emma asked. After everything... I'm not good, I said. I'm just tired and ready to try something different, with people who see me. I see you now, Emma said quietly. Finally really see you, and I'm so sorry it took losing everything for me to look. As we loaded the dishwasher, Emma's first time doing dishes, I realized this was what I'd wanted all along. Not revenge, not even equality exactly, just to be seen, to matter, to belong somewhere without having to prove my worth through achievement. Hey, Emma said suddenly, we never had sister traditions, did we? Like stupid things sisters do together? No, I admitted. You had friends for that. Well, I want some, with you, if you'll let me. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Makeup-smeared designer clothes, wrinkled hands, pruny from dishwater, trying so hard to be different than she'd been raised to be. Okay, I said, we can try. She smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes without calculation or performance, just genuine hope for something real. And in Richard and Sarah's kitchen, with the sounds of family all around us, two sisters began the long work of building what should have existed all along. Not because we had to, but because we finally could. The frozen pizza was history. The inequality was being addressed. The lies were exposed. All that was left was to build something true from the wreckage of what was false. 3 days after the legal meeting, Emma and I sat in Grandpa's living room watching our childhood home get emptied box by box. We'd driven over to collect the last of our things, only to find Mom and Dad in the middle of a spectacular breakdown that had clearly been building since we'd left. This is your fault, Mom screamed, throwing a wedding album at Dad's head. He ducked, and it smashed into the wall where our family photos once hung. Your pride. Your inability to accept Emma. You're the one who suggested keeping the money secret. My fault, Dad roared back. You're the one who had an affair. You're the one who lied about Emma's father. You're the one who turned our family into this fraud. Emma gripped my hand as we stood in the doorway unnoticed. The house was in chaos. Boxes, half-packed furniture, askew papers scattered everywhere. They'd clearly started trying to organize for the move, but had devolved into warfare instead. I made one mistake, Mom sobbed. One, and I've paid for it every day since... No, Dad's voice was ice. Juanita paid for it. Every damn day, Juanita paid for your mistake while Emma reaped the benefits. Do you know how it felt watching you pour everything into another man's child while our daughter worked herself to death? She was your daughter. You should have stood up for her. Against you, you threatened to leave every time I tried. Remember when I suggested Juanita should get a car too? You cried for 3 days about how I didn't love Emma like a real father should. Grandpa appeared behind us, his face grim. How long have they been at it? We just got here, I whispered. Should we? No, let them finally tell each other the truth. Lord knows it's overdue. Mom picked up another framed photo, one of Emma's dance recitals, and hurled it across the room. You never loved her. You just pretended because you were scared of being alone. I tried to love her, Dad shouted. I did everything right. I provided, I showed up, I played the father. But every time I looked at her, I saw him, and you knew it. You knew it, and you used it against me. So you punished Juanita instead. We both punished Juanita. At least I have the balls to admit it. Emma made a sound like she'd been punched. I squeezed her hand tighter. 23 years. Dad continued, his voice breaking. 23 years of playing second fiddle to a ghost, of competing with a man you'd been with for one night that destroyed everything we'd built. We hadn't built anything, Mom screamed. We were kids playing house. I was 22 and scared, and you were safe. That's all you ever were, safe. The word hung in the air like a weapon. Safe, Dad repeated slowly. Is that what you told him, Richard? Is that why you chose me? Because I was safe. Mom's silence was answer enough. My God. Dad laughed, but it was an ugly sound. Our entire marriage was built on me being the backup plan, the safe choice who'd raise another man's baby without asking questions. You knew what you were signing up for. I thought I was signing up for love for a family, not for 2 decades of you stealing from our daughter to appease your guilt. Our daughter. Mom's voice dripped venom. Now she's our daughter. Where was that energy when she was eating ramen for the 3rd night in a row during college? Where was that when she couldn't afford textbooks, when she graduated summa cum laude and got a frozen pizza? Don't you dare put that all on me. You're the one who controlled the money. You're the one who decided where Richard's checks went. You're the one who lied to him about Juanita not needing help because you made me feel like I had to. Every time Emma needed something, you'd get that look, that here we go again spending money on the affair baby look. So yes, I overcompensated. Yes, I gave her everything, because at least when she was happy, you'd pretend to love me. Emma turned into my shoulder, crying silently. I held her while watching our parents' marriage implode completely. I did love you, Dad said, quietly deflated. Past tense. I loved you until you chose your guilt over our daughter, until you made me complicit in neglecting Juanita, until you turned me into the kind of father I swore I'd never be. What kind is that? The kind who fails, the kind whose daughter has to work 3 jobs to pay for college, the kind who shows favoritism so obvious that strangers noticed it, the kind who... His voice broke. The kind whose daughter couldn't even call him when she was hungry because she knew he'd chosen another child over her. She never called because she knew we'd say no, Mom said bitterly. We trained her not to need us. Both of us, together. Together, Dad repeated. The only thing we've done together in 20 years is destroy our daughter's relationship and steal their futures. Not Emma's future. Emma's future was always secure. Bought with blood money. It wasn't blood money, Mom screamed. It was child support. It was a father trying to provide for his children. Children, Dad yelled back. Plural. He sent it for both of them, and you took it all for Emma because you couldn't stand the thought of her questioning why she got more. Because deep down you knew that the minute Emma found out the truth, she'd want to know her real father. The silence that followed was deafening. Is that what you think? Mom's voice was small. That I kept her from Richard because I was scared of losing her. Didn't you—" Mom sank onto the couch amid the chaos of boxes and broken frames. I told myself it was for her own good, that a stable two-parent home was better than a complicated truth. But yes, I was terrified that if she knew Richard, she'd choose him. He was successful, charming, everything you— She stopped. "Everything I wasn't," Dad finished. "Say it, Diane. After 23 years, just say it." "Everything you weren't," she whispered. And I couldn't lose her. She was all I had of him. The only proof that someone like Richard Pearson had wanted someone like me even for just one night. "So you sacrificed Juanita." "We sacrificed Juanita. Don't pretend you weren't relieved when she stopped asking for things, when she got jobs and scholarships and made our lives easier by needing nothing." "I was," Dad admitted. "God help me, I was relieved. Because every dollar we didn't spend on her was a dollar that kept Emma happy. And when Emma was happy, you didn't look at me like I was your consolation prize." Grandpa cleared his throat, finally announcing our presence. Both parents whipped around, horror dawning, as they realized we'd heard everything. "Girls." Mom started mascara streaking down her face. "We didn't know you were—" "We came to get our things," I said calmly. "We'll be quick." "Juanita, please." Dad stood reaching for me. "Let me explain." "You just did," I said, stepping back. 23 years of marriage built on fear, resentment, and theft, using your daughters as pawns in your war with each other. We get it." Emma finally found her voice. "Did either of you ever actually love us, or were we just weapons?" The question hung in the air. "I loved you," Mom said desperately. "Both of you." "No." Emma cut her off. "You loved the idea of me, the proof that Richard Pearson had wanted you, and you feared the idea of me finding out the truth. That's not love. That's possession." "And you—" She turned to Dad. "You couldn't love me because I reminded you that Mom chose you for safety, not passion. So you poured all your actual love into Juanita, but only when it didn't cost anything, when loving her was free." "That's not—" Dad started. "It is," I said quietly. "You loved me in theory, in the abstract, as long as loving me didn't require actually providing for me, as long as it didn't mean standing up to Mom, as long as it was easy." "We did our best," Mom whispered. "Your best was theft," Grandpa said coldly. "Your best was fraud. Your best was one daughter eating ramen while the other got filet mignon. Your best was a frozen pizza for summa cum laude." He looked around the destroyed living room. 30 days, not a minute more, and I'll be checking the house for damage. We headed upstairs, Emma and I, to gather what little remained. My room was exactly as I'd left it. Sparse, minimal, the room of someone who'd learned not to accumulate things because things required space, and space was for Emma. Emma's room was a disaster. Mom had clearly been in here, probably looking for items to sell. Designer bags were piled on the bed, jewelry boxes open and emptied. "She's cataloging my things," Emma said numbly, "figuring out what's worth selling to pay back what they stole." "How does that feel?" "Like justice," Emma said, then shook her head. "No, like karma, like the universe finally balancing the scales." We packed in silence, the sound of our parents' continued argument drifting up through the floor. They'd moved on to blame about smaller things now. Who forgot to pay bills, who spent too much at Christmas, who was responsible for their financial ruin. 23 years of resentment pouring out in an unstoppable flood. "They never loved each other," Emma said suddenly. "This whole family was built on a lie." "Multiple lies," I corrected. "The affair, the theft, the favoritism, lies upon lies until they couldn't remember what was true. Do you think—" Emma paused, folding a sweater she'd probably never wear again. "Do you think it could have been different if Mom had just told the truth from the start?" I considered it. Maybe. If she'd been honest with Dad about Richard, about wanting both girls supported with us, about having different fathers but equal worth, maybe. But that would have required courage. And Mom's a coward, Emma said flatly. So is Dad. They're both cowards who use their children as shields against their own failures. A crash from downstairs suggested someone had thrown something else. I can't believe they're finally telling each other the truth, Emma said. After all these years. They're not telling the truth, I corrected. They're weaponizing it. There's a difference between honesty meant to heal and honesty meant to hurt. This is all hurt. We finished packing what little we wanted. As we headed back downstairs, the war had moved to the kitchen. Mom was throwing plates while Dad shouted about wasted years. "Stop," Grandpa commanded, and the authority in his voice froze them both. "You're destroying my property now. Save your energy for packing. You have 30 days to sort out 23 years of lies. I suggest you use them wisely." He turned to us. "Let's go. There's nothing here worth saving." As we walked to our cars, Emma looked back at the house one last time. I grew up there, 18 years in that house, and it never felt like home. Because it wasn't, I said. It was a stage, a set for the performance of a happy family, but the play's over now. "What happens to them?" Emma asked. "Mom and Dad." Now that they've finally admitted they never loved each other, they'll either destroy each other or finally be free of each other, Grandpa said. Either way, it's not our problem anymore. But as we drove away, I wondered if it was that simple. 23 years of lies had shaped all of us. Mom and Dad would have to reckon with who they were without the facade. Emma would have to learn who she was without the favoritism. And I would have to figure out who I was when I wasn't defined by neglect. Behind us, the house that had never been a home stood witness to the complete unraveling of a family built on deception. Inside, two people who'd never loved each other faced the ruins of a marriage that should never have been. And somewhere across town, Richard Pearson waited with his wife and twins, offering the chance at something real, something honest, something that didn't require theft or lies or frozen pizzas to maintain. The marriage that had started with a lie was ending with the truth, and sometimes that's the only justice the universe offers. The conference room at Patricia Chen's law firm felt different this time, less like a courtroom and more like a crossroads. Everyone was there. Grandpa, Richard, Sarah, even the twins fidgeting in chairs too big for them. My parents sat at the far end of the table looking hollow, their war of words, having exhausted itself into bitter silence. Carl Brennan, their lawyer, had been replaced by someone more competent who actually understood federal fraud charges. Emma sat beside me, having insisted on being present for whatever came next. The past week had transformed her. Designer clothes replaced with simple jeans and sweaters, manicured nails cut short and unpolished. She'd started working at a coffee shop near Richard's house, her first real job, and came home every night exhausted, but somehow more alive than I'd ever seen her. Patricia laid out the options with clinical precision. The financial audit is complete. The total amount diverted from Juanita comes to $118,000 in principal plus interest and penalties, bringing us to approximately $200,000. Your parents have liquidated all available assets and can cover $90,000. This leaves a significant gap. "What about the house contents?" the new lawyer asked. "Furniture, jewelry, electronics." "Another $20,000 at best," Marcus Webb supplied. "The jewelry is mostly costume, the furniture is mortgaged, and the electronics are dated." "So there's still $110,000 short," Patricia summarized. "Which brings us to our options. 1, prosecute for the full amount, likely resulting in wage garnishment and possible jail time. 2, accept the $90,000 as partial settlement. 3, work out a payment plan for the remainder." "There's a 4th option," I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. "Emma's offer to transfer her college fund. I know I said she should keep it, but I've been thinking. That money was stolen. Every penny of it. Keeping it in the family, even going to Emma, still rewards the theft. It should go back to its intended purpose." "Juanita, no," Emma protested. "I need to earn my own way. I can't take shortcuts anymore." "It's not a shortcut. It's justice." I looked at Patricia. What if we take the $90,000 from my parents' assets, plus enough from Emma's fund to cover my student loans? About $60,000. That's $150,000 total. The remaining balance in Emma's fund, roughly $80,000, gets split 3 ways. 3 ways, Richard asked. Between Emma, Marcus, and Melody. Richard's biological children, who were all affected by this fraud in different ways. Emma lost her relationship with her father and siblings. Marcus and Melody lost their sister. That money could start education funds for the twins and give Emma something to rebuild with, not as theft, but as a gift from her biological father distributed fairly among all his children. The room was silent. "You're giving up $50,000? Patricia asked carefully. "You could demand the full amount. Legally, you're entitled to it." "I'm entitled to a lot of things I never got," I said. "A childhood, parents who saw me, birthdays that mattered. But taking every penny won't give me those things back. What I want is freedom from this. Clean, clear, done." "That's extraordinarily generous," Richard said softly. "It's not generous. It's practical. I could spend years fighting for every penny while lawyers get rich and my parents go bankrupt. Or I can take what covers my immediate needs, my student loan debt, and move forward. Emma keeps enough to start fresh, but not enough to avoid working. The twins get college funds. My parents avoid jail but face consequences. Everyone pays something. Everyone gets something. It's the closest to fair we're going to get." Mom started crying again. "Juanita, we're so sorry." "I don't want your apologies," I cut her off. "I want your signatures, and I want the written statements we discussed. The truth sent to everyone who attended Emma's party. Full accountability." "You still want us to humiliate ourselves?" Dad asked. "I want you to be honest. If honesty humiliates you, that's on you." "What about therapy?" Grandpa asked. "That was part of the deal." "Individual therapy for both of them," I confirmed. "Receipts provided monthly to Patricia's office for 1 year. If they skip, we revisit prosecution." "And us?" Mom asked desperately. "What about family therapy to repair things?" Emma laughed, but it wasn't cruel, just tired. "There's nothing to repair. You can't fix what never existed. We were never a family. We were 4 people playing roles, and now the show's over." "But you're our daughters." "Biologically," I agreed. "But family is more than DNA. It's showing up. It's choosing each other. It's 22 years of daily decisions, and you made yours. Now we're making ours." Patricia drew up the agreement as I'd outlined it. The room was quiet except for the scratch of pens on paper. Melody had crawled into Emma's lap at some point, and Emma held her carefully like she was precious and breakable. Marcus sat next to me occasionally, patting my arm in solidarity. "There's one more thing," I said as the papers were signed. "The house." "They have 30 days to vacate," Grandpa reminded everyone. "I know, but what happens to it after—" Grandpa studied me. "I haven't decided. Maybe sell it, maybe rent it. Why? What if—" I paused, gathering courage. "What if Emma and I rented it together? Not as the house where we were raised wrong, but as a place to start over. To be the sisters we never got to be." Emma's head shot up. "You'd want to live with me after everything—" "We've lost 22 years. I'd like to not lose any more." "The memories," Emma said softly. "Won't they hurt?" "Only if we let them. Houses aren't good or bad. They're just walls and floors. We decide what happens inside them." Grandpa smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him all week. "I think that's a fine idea. Fair market rent, though. No more free rides for anyone." "We'll pay," Emma said quickly. "Both of us, equal shares, like real roommates, real sisters." As the meeting concluded and papers were filed, my parents tried one more time. "Please," Mom begged, "just let us talk to you, both of you. Let us try to explain—" "You had 22 years to explain," I said. "To explain why Emma's birthday mattered more, why her graduation deserved celebration, why her education warranted investment. You explained every day with your choices. We heard you loud and clear. We'll change, Dad promised. We'll do better. Emma stood Melody still in her arms. Maybe you will. Maybe therapy will help you understand what you did. Maybe you'll become better people. But you won't do it as our parents. That relationship died with a frozen pizza and a sticky note. You can't just cut us off, Mom wailed. Watch us, Emma said simply. You taught us how. Every time you cut Juanita off from opportunities. Every time you cut her off from resources. Every time you cut her off from love. We're just following your example. We left them there with their lawyer and their consequences. Outside, Richard's family waited. Sarah had her arms around the twins. Richard stood apart, giving us space to breathe. You okay? Emma asked me. You just gave up a lot of money. I gave up their money, I corrected. Stolen money, guilt money. I'd rather have my integrity and a sister than every penny they took. You have a sister, Emma said fiercely. Whether you want one or not, I'm going to be the most annoying, involved, caring sister you've ever seen. I've got 22 years of sisterhood to make up for. I'm counting on it. Richard approached carefully. For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. All of it. The money, the house, the boundaries with your parents. Our parents, I corrected gently. You're Emma's father, too. Maybe more than the man who raised her. Richard's eyes filled with tears he didn't try to hide. Thank you. For accepting me. For protecting Emma even when she didn't protect you. For being the daughter I tried to support from afar. We're all starting fresh, I said. New relationships, new dynamics, new choices, every day. Melody tugged on my hand. Does this mean you're really our sister now, for real? I knelt to her level. What do you think? I think yes, she decided, because you make Emma happy, and you make Daddy happy, and you make really good spaghetti. Lasagna, Marcus corrected. She made lasagna. Whatever Melody said, it was yummy. That makes her family. And maybe it was that simple. Not DNA or legal documents or 18 years of stolen money. Just showing up. Choosing each other. Making lasagna together in a kitchen filled with honesty instead of lies. Come on, Sarah said. Let's go home, all of us. As we walked to the cars, I felt lighter than I had in years. The money would help. No more 3 jobs, no more choosing between textbooks and food. But the freedom mattered more. Freedom from anger. Freedom from resentment. Freedom from a family that had never been family at all. Behind us, my parents remained in the conference room facing their choices and their empty future. Ahead of us, Richard's family offered something new. Not perfect, but real. And between us, Emma and I walked together sisters, not by birth, but by choice, ready to build something true from the ashes of what had burned. The frozen pizza was long gone, the sticky note forgotten, but we remained stronger for having survived, closer for having chosen each other when we could have chosen revenge. And sometimes that's the best justice of all. 2 weeks after the settlement, Emma and I were still adjusting to life in Richard's guest house when the doorbell rang during Saturday morning breakfast. Sarah was at the stove making pancakes while the twins argued over syrup distribution. Richard had gone to the office early, unable to completely shake his workaholic tendencies, even on weekends. Emma answered the door and returned, looking stunned. There's someone here. Says his name is Marcus Rivera. Says he's... She paused, struggling with the words, our brother. The pancake turner slipped from Sarah's hand. Marcus here. Before anyone could respond, a young man appeared in the doorway. The resemblance was undeniable. Emma's eyes, Richard's jaw, my height. He wore a Columbia Law sweatshirt and carried himself with the careful confidence of someone who'd fought for everything he had. Sorry to just show up, he said, voice steady but hands trembling slightly. I'm Marcus Rivera. I was adopted 23 years ago. Recent DNA testing shows Emma Martinez is my twin sister. I've been trying to contact the family for months, but... He looked directly at Sarah, who'd gone pale. My emails kept getting blocked. Not blocked, Sarah said quietly. Intercepted by Diane and David Martinez. We only learned about you last week. Marcus, not little Marcus, but our Marcus Emma's twin, stepped fully into the kitchen. Then we know our mother gave you up for adoption when you were 3 days old, Emma said, her voice hollow. We know she kept me and gave you away because she couldn't handle twins from an affair. Is that what she told you? Marcus laughed, but it was bitter. My adoptive parents have documents. She didn't give me up because she couldn't handle twins. She gave me up because I was a boy. The silence was deafening. What? Emma breathed. Marcus pulled out his phone, showing us scanned documents. The adoption papers. She specifically requested a closed adoption for the male twin. Quote, the female infant will remain with the birth mother. The male infant is surrendered for adoption as the birth mother's husband will not accept raising another man's son. I sank into a chair. Another lie. Another layer of deception in our House of Cards family. Dad would have accepted a daughter, but not a son. Emma asked, though we all knew the answer. Apparently, Marcus said, though from what I've learned, he didn't do a great job accepting the daughter either. Just bribed her with stolen money to prevent questions. Sarah had recovered enough to pull out another chair. Sit, please. You're Richard's son, your family. The pancakes are getting cold, but... I love pancakes, Marcus said with a sudden genuine smile that looked exactly like Emma's. My adoptive mom makes them every Saturday. Family tradition. As he sat, little Marcus and Melody crept closer, fascinated by this older version of their brother's name. Are you our brother too? Melody asked directly. Half-brother technically, Marcus said gently. Same dad, different moms. Is that okay? We have so many siblings now, Melody exclaimed. This is the best. Tell us about you, Emma demanded. Everything. Where did you grow up? Who adopted you? How did you find us? Marcus accepted a plate of pancakes from Sarah with a grateful nod. Elena and Carlos Rivera, both lawyers, unable to have biological children. They adopted me when I was a week old, told me the truth when I was 10. Said my birth mother was young, scared already had one child and couldn't manage two. More lies, Emma said bitterly. They didn't know. The adoption was closed sealed. All they had was basic medical information. But they loved me. Gave me everything. Good schools, music lessons, family vacations. When I got into Columbia Law, they cried harder than I did. You're at Columbia? I asked, impressed. Second year, focusing on family law. Ironic, right? But I've always been interested in adoption rights custody issues. Wonder why? His smile was self-deprecating. I started searching for my biological family when I turned 18 but hit dead ends. Then commercial DNA testing became available. And you found Emma, Sarah supplied. Found a twin sister I didn't know existed. The adoption records said nothing about a twin. Another lie. He looked at Emma. I've been watching your Instagram for 2 years, trying to work up the courage to reach out. Seeing your perfect life, your parents who clearly adored you, wondering if you'd even want to know about the brother they gave away. Emma laughed, harsh and hurt. Perfect life. God, if you only knew. I'm learning. I hired my own investigator after my emails to your parents went unanswered. Found out about Richard Pearson, about Juanita, about the money, the lies, the fraud. My adoptive parents are lawyers, remember? They're livid about the deception. Are they going to sue? Sarah asked, worried. For what they got a son they love. I got parents who actually wanted me. Sounds like I got the better end of the deal. He looked between Emma and me. Though I missed out on having sisters. You didn't miss much, Emma said darkly. I was horrible to Juanita. Our parents pitted us against each other from birth. You're probably lucky you escaped. Maybe, but I also missed the chance to know you, both of you. To be a big brother, technically, by 3 minutes, according to the birth certificate. 3 minutes older and infinitely luckier, Emma said. Was I you gotta stay, I got sent away. I stayed in a house built on lies where love was transactional and worth was measured in dollars stolen from my sister. You got parents who chose you, wanted you, celebrated you honestly. Who won? Marcus studied his twin, this stranger who shared his DNA. Maybe neither of us. Maybe we both lost the moment our mother decided to lie about everything. Little Marcus tugged on Big Marcus's sleeve. If you're our brother, does that mean you know how to play video games? Marcus, our Marcus, grinned. I'm ranked nationally in 3 different games. Really? Both twins exploded with excitement. Will you teach us? As the kids dragged him toward the living room, Emma grabbed his arm. Wait, I need to know. Do you hate me for being chosen? Marcus looked at her seriously. I did. For a long time, I hated the phantom sister who got to stay. But then I realized you didn't choose any more than I did. We were babies. The adults made choices, and we lived with the consequences. But you got good consequences. Emma gestured helplessly. You got trauma disguised as privilege. I get it now. My therapist would have a field day with our family. He smiled sadly. Want to know something weird? My adoptive parents tried for years to adopt again, to give me a sibling. It never worked out. Meanwhile, you had a sister right there, and your parents made sure you could never really be sisters. Until now, I interjected. We're working on it. Marcus looked between us, noting our clasped hands. Good. That's good. Maybe we can work on the sibling thing, too. All of us. I know I'm a stranger, but... You're not a stranger, Emma said fiercely. You're my twin. You're the piece of me I didn't know was missing. You're the brother they stole from me with their lies. Does Richard know I'm here? Marcus asked. Richard's at the office, but he'll be thrilled, Sarah assured him. He's been sick about you since we found out. Another child he couldn't raise couldn't help because of their deception. I'd like to meet him. My biological father, if he's willing. He's willing, Sarah said firmly. He's been willing for 23 years. As the morning progressed, stories were shared. Marcus told us about growing up knowing he was adopted but loved, about his parents who encouraged his search for biological family while assuring him he was complete with or without them, about studying law to help other adoptees and separated families. Emma told him the truth about our childhood, about the favoritism that wasn't favor but guilt, about the money stolen and lies told, about the frozen pizza that broke 22 years of silence. A frozen pizza. Marcus shook his head. That's what finally did it. Sometimes it's the small things, I said. The final insult that makes all the others impossible to ignore. My adoptive mom makes pizza from scratch, Marcus said thoughtfully. Every Friday, family pizza night. Even when I was an undergrad, she'd FedEx me frozen homemade pizza. The contrast hit Emma physically. She curled into herself, understanding more deeply what real parenting looked like. Richard arrived home to find his biological son teaching his acknowledged children combo moves in a video game. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene, all 3 of his children together for the first time. Marcus, his voice broke on the name. Marcus stood slowly studying the man he'd wondered about for years. Hi, I'm sorry to just show up. Don't, Richard said firmly. Don't apologize for finding us, for finding your family. I've been looking for you for 20 years. My adoptive parents, they didn't know who you were. The records were sealed. I know. I tried everything legal to find you. But Diane had covered her tracks well. Richard's face hardened. Another crime to add to her list, denying me my son, denying you your father and siblings. I had a father, Marcus said carefully. A good one. Carlos Rivera loved me like his own because I was his own. But there's room for more family, if you want. Want? Richard laughed, but it was watery. I've wanted nothing more since the day I learned you existed. They moved toward each other awkwardly, settling on a handshake that turned into a hug. Emma joined them. The twins separated, at birth, finally reunited with the father they'd never known. I stood apart, watching. This wasn't my reunion, wasn't my biological family. But then Marcus looked up and held out an arm to me. Get over here, he said. You're my sister, too. Emma told me everything. We're family by choice, if not by blood. And so I joined them, this complicated mesh of relationships. Richard's 3 children, 2 biological, 1 chosen, all denied their proper relationships by lies and legal documents. My parents want to meet everyone, Marcus said eventually. The people who raised me want to know the people who made me. Would that be okay? More than okay, Richard said. They raised my son when I couldn't. I owe them everything. They're lawyers, Marcus warned with a grin. They have opinions about the fraud, strong ones. Good, Richard said firmly. Maybe they can help us ensure nothing like this ever happens again. As the day wore on, Marcus integrated into the family as if he'd always been there. He helped Sarah with dinner, played games with the twins, shared law school stories with Richard. But it was with Emma he connected most deeply, twin souls recognizing each other despite 23 years of separation. We have the same laugh, Emma noticed at one point. Same allergies too, Marcus added, shellfish and narcissistic parents. That broke the tension, everyone laughing at the dark humor that seemed to be a family trait. That evening, as Marcus prepared to leave, Emma clung to him. You'll come back. Try to keep me away. I've got 23 years of sibling rivalry to catch up on. Plus, he looked at me, someone needs to make sure you two actually become the sisters you should have been. Consider me the annoying big brother you never wanted. I wanted a brother, Emma said softly. I used to ask for one every birthday until I was 10. They said I was being greedy, that I should be grateful to be an only child with Juanita in the house. You were never an only child, Marcus said firmly. You had a sister they wouldn't let you see and a brother they threw away, but we're here now, all of us. After he left, Emma and I sat with Richard's complete family, processing the day's revelations. Another lie exposed, another family member recovered, another piece of our complicated puzzle falling into place. They gave him away, Emma kept repeating. They gave my twin away because he was a boy. Because Dad couldn't handle raising another man's son, I corrected. The same toxic masculinity that made him compete with your ghost father for 23 years. Do you think there are more? Emma asked suddenly. More siblings, more lies, more secrets. I think we've found them all, Sarah said gently. Your parents weren't clever enough to hide more than this. But we'll keep looking, Richard added. No more secrets, no more lost children. This family operates on truth now, however complicated it gets. That night, Emma crawled into my bed like we were children who'd never been allowed to be close. I have a twin brother, she whispered in wonder. You do. And a sister who doesn't hate me. That too. And a biological father who actually wanted me. Always. And parents who gave me away, who kept me from my twin, who stole from you to pay for their guilt, who built our entire lives on lies. Also true. She was quiet for a moment. Which matters more, the family we lost or the family we found? I thought about Marcus successful despite being given away, about Richard fighting for children he couldn't raise, about Sarah accepting her husband's complicated past, about the twins delighted by more siblings, about Grandpa choosing justice over easy peace. The family we choose, I said finally, the one we build from truth instead of lies. Then we choose each other, Emma asked, vulnerable in the darkness. Every day, I promised. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, that's what real family does. And in Richard's guest house, 2 sisters who'd been strangers fell asleep holding hands, while somewhere across town their newly found brother made plans to return, and their biological father dreamed of finally having all his children at one table. The frozen pizza had started an avalanche that revealed twins' fraud and a family that had never been whole. But from the pieces, something new was forming, something honest, something chosen. Something real. 6 months later, our lives had transformed into something unrecognizable from that graduation day with the frozen pizza. Emma and I stood in the doorway of our childhood home, now our home, watching the moving truck pull away. We'd spent weeks renovating not the structure, but the memories, painting over the past with colors we chose ourselves. I can't believe Mom and Dad's divorce was final yesterday, Emma said, touching the fresh paint on the doorframe. We'd chosen a warm yellow for the entrance, nothing like the cold beige our parents had preferred. 23 years of marriage ended with lawyers dividing debt instead of assets, I replied. Fitting considering it started with a lie. They'd moved into separate apartments on opposite sides of town, each barely scraping by after the settlement and legal fees. Mom worked retail now, her pride in tatters, but her manipulation intact. Her co-workers had already started complaining about her victim complex. Dad had kept his government job but been demoted after word of the fraud spread through his department. They attended their court-mandated therapy sessions, but sent us copies of the receipts through their lawyers, unable to contact us directly without violating the no-contact order Emma had requested. Marcus helped me move his old bed in here, Emma said, gesturing to what had been her shrine of a bedroom now converted into a study space we shared. He's officially transferring to law school here next semester. Our brother had become a constant presence driving down from Colombia every few weekends. His adoptive parents, Elena and Carlos, had embraced us completely. Elena had even helped review the legal documents for the house rental, ensuring Grandpa gave us a fair deal while protecting everyone's interests. Sunday dinner at Richard's. I asked, though it had become routine. Every Sunday, the entire extended family gathered. Richard, Sarah, the twins, Marcus, when he was in town often, Elena and Carlos, always Grandpa and us. Wouldn't miss it. Sarah's making that lasagna again. Emma smiled, then grew serious. Can you believe it's only been 6 months? I was such a different person then. She was right. The entitled princess who'd lived for Instagram likes had been replaced by someone I genuinely liked. Emma worked full-time at the coffee shop while taking night classes at community college. She'd sold most of her designer items, keeping only what had sentimental value, and donated the proceeds to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. Her Instagram, once filled with luxury and excess, now featured latte art and study group selfies. You were never that person, I said gently. That was who they created. This is who you are. My own transformation had been quieter, but no less profound. Without the weight of student loans, I'd been able to take an unpaid internship at a research lab I'd dreamed of working in. The experience had led to a full-time position starting next month, with a salary that would have seemed impossible when I was working 3 jobs just to eat. A car pulled up outside, Marcus in the used Honda he'd bought himself, refusing Richard's offer of something newer. Independence matters, he'd said, sounding exactly like me. Ready for the big announcement? He asked, bouncing with energy as he entered. What announcement? Emma demanded. You can't keep secrets from your twin. It's not my secret, it's Richard's, but trust me, you'll want to be there. The drive to Richard's house, I still couldn't think of it as home despite their insistence, filled with Marcus and Emma's twin banter. They developed an entire language of inside jokes and shared references, making up for 23 lost years at breakneck speed. Elena made cookies, Marcus mentioned, the ones with the dulce de leche. Emma finished. I'm obsessed with those. You're obsessed with Elena, I teased. I swear you like Marcus's adoptive mom more than our biological mother who lied to us our entire lives. Yes, I do. We arrived to controlled chaos. Melody had set the table with handmade place cards again this time, with everyone's names in glitter glue, including Big Marcus and Little Marcus, to distinguish between them. The house smelled like garlic and basil and something chocolate baking. Finally, Melody exclaimed. Daddy said we couldn't tell the secret until everyone was here. What secret? Emma asked, but Richard was already gathering everyone in the living room. He stood with Sarah, both looking nervous but excited. Sarah held an envelope that she kept turning over in her hands. We have news, Richard began. As you all know, this family has grown in unexpected ways this year. We've gone from feeling incomplete to having more love than we know what to do with. Just tell them, little Marcus urged. The suspense is killing me. Sarah laughed. We're having a baby. The room exploded. Melody shrieked with joy, the twins immediately arguing over names. Elena and Carlos offered congratulations, while Grandpa wiped away tears he'd deny later. But I watched Emma. My sister stood frozen, processing this news that once would have meant competition, another child to potentially supplant her. Old Emma would have calculated how this affected her position, her inheritance, her importance. New Emma burst into tears and threw herself at Sarah. Really? Another sibling? A baby? Due in 6 months, Sarah confirmed, hugging Emma back. We wanted to make sure everything was okay before telling everyone. Everything's okay. Richard was immediately in protective mode. The doctors said, everything's perfect, Sarah assured him. Just like this family, complicated and unconventional and absolutely perfect. Can we name it? Melody asked. I have a list. A list. Big Marcus laughed. Of course you do. As the celebration continued, I found myself on the deck with Richard. He'd stepped out for air or maybe to process everything in quiet. You okay? I asked. 24 years ago, I found out I was going to be a father, he said softly. I was terrified but thrilled. Then I lost it all. Emma Marcus, the chance to be a dad. Now I have all 3 of you plus the twins plus another on the way. Sometimes I can't believe it's real. It's real, I assured him. Messier than anyone could have imagined, but real. I owe you so much, he said suddenly. You could have taken everything in that settlement, could have destroyed your parents completely. Instead, you chose healing for everyone. I chose freedom, I corrected. The money helped, but watching Emma transform, finding Marcus building this family, that's the real payment. Emma appeared in the doorway. Sarah's serving dinner. But also, she held up her phone showing a text. Mom found out about the baby somehow. She's threatening to contest the restraining order, says she has a right to know her grandchild. The old, familiar anger sparked, then died. She gave up that right when she chose lies over love. That's what I told her, Emma said. Well, I didn't respond because no contact order, but that's what I thought really loudly. She's probably realizing that actions have consequences, Richard said. That you can't build a family on deception and theft, then expect to be welcomed at the table when it suits you. We went inside to find Grandpa regaling the table with stories of my mother as a child. Should have seen the signs, he was saying. Girl could lie about eating cookies with chocolate on her face, but I thought she'd grow out of it. Instead, she grew into it, Marcus said dryly. Lying about affairs, stolen money, secret twins. Secret twins sounds like a soap opera, Carlos observed. If I didn't know better, I'd think this whole story was fiction. Too unbelievable for fiction, Elena added. No one would buy parents that awful. To chosen family. Grandpa raised his glass of sparkling cider, the kind you build with truth instead of blood. To second chances. Sarah added, hand on her still flat stomach. To frozen pizza, Emma said suddenly. Everyone looked at her in surprise. What, without that frozen pizza, none of this happens. I'm still a spoiled brat. Juanita's still invisible. Marcus is still a stranger. The lies continue. So, yeah, to the frozen pizza that started the avalanche. To the avalanche that buried the lies, I added. To the family that emerged from the rubble, Marcus finished. We toasted with sparkling cider and the twins' juice boxes, this impossible family brought together by deception but held together by choice. Around the table sat a construction company owner, a tech executive, 2 lawyers, a pregnant teacher, graduating students and children who'd learned that family comes in all forms. You know what I want, Melody announced. I want the baby to be a girl, so I can be the best big sister ever, like Emma and Juanita are learning to be. We're not learning, Emma protested. We're already there. Really? I challenged, grinning. So you'll let me borrow your car? Let's not get crazy, Emma shot back. Being a good sister doesn't mean being stupid. The table laughed, and in that moment I understood what we'd built. Not a replacement for the family we'd lost, but something entirely new. A place where truth mattered more than comfort, where love was given freely instead of traded, where siblings found each other across decades and deceptions. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number that I knew was Mom, probably using a coworker's phone. I deleted it without reading. That door was closed, sealed by their choices and our healing. Juanita's got her thinking face, Marcus observed. Dangerous. Just grateful, I said, for all of this, for people who see me. We see you, Emma said firmly. We all see you. And they did. After 22 years of invisibility, I was seen, known, valued, not for my achievements or my compliance, but for myself, the frozen pizza daughter who'd refused to accept crumbs anymore. The dinner continued with warmth and laughter plans. For the baby's room, debates about name stories of the week. Normal family chaos made precious by its honesty. 6 months from frozen pizza to this. 6 months from a fractured facade to a messy truth. 6 months from being daughters to being sisters, from strangers to siblings, from lies to love. As Melody climbed into my lap for dessert chocolate already on her face, I thought about the graduation day that started it all. The empty chairs, the missing parents, the cold consolation waiting at home. I'd stood at that podium accomplished but alone, successful but unseen. Now I sat at a table full of chosen family no longer defined by neglect, but by the love I'd found and the love I'd learned to give. The student loans were gone, but more importantly, so was the weight of being unwanted. In its place was this, complicated, unconventional, wonderful belonging. Tell the baby story again, Melody demanded. The one where Emma and Marcus were born but got separated like in a movie. Emma groaned. You've heard it 100 times. But I like it, Melody insisted. It has a happy ending. They find each other and us and everyone lives happily ever after. Is that how it ends? Marcus asked, amused. Happily ever after? No. I said, thinking of the work still ahead, the therapy Emma and I attended together, the late-night conversations about hurt and healing, the daily choice to build something better. It ends with happily ever effort. Every day we choose each other. Every day we do the work. Every day we build the family we deserved from the start. That's beautiful, Sarah said softly. That's life, Grandpa corrected. Messy, complicated, worth it. As the evening wound down and we prepared to leave, Richard pulled Emma and me aside. I want you to know something. The baby, we're planning to raise them differently. No favorites, no guilt, no lies. Everything equal, everything honest. The way it should have been for you two. We know, Emma said. You've already proven that with the twins. This baby hit the family lottery. We all did, I added. It just took some of us longer to claim our winning ticket. Richard hugged us both, this man who'd chosen to father children he couldn't raise, and now got to love them all openly. Thank you, he whispered, for giving me the chance. Thank you, Emma countered, for never giving up. We drove home to our renovated truth, Marcus following to crash in his designated room. The house that had held so many lies now rang with laughter and honesty. We'd kept nothing of our parents' decoration, creating something entirely new from the bones of the old. Game night, Marcus suggested. I brought the new expansion pack. Only if you're prepared to lose, Emma challenged. Big talk from someone who can't even win at Go Fish, he shot back. I smiled, making popcorn while they set up the game. This was what we'd missed. Stupid sibling arguments, lazy Sunday evenings, the casual assumption that we belonged in each other's lives. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Dad's number. The restraining order only covered Mom, but I'd extended my no-contact choice to both of them. They'd made their choices for 22 years. Now I was making mine. You coming? Emma called. Marcus is already cheating. I'm strategizing, Marcus protested. I joined them at the table our parents had used for formal dinners we'd rarely been invited to. Now it hosted game nights and study sessions and midnight snacks. The same wood, completely different purpose. "Before we start," Emma said seriously, "I need to say something. 6 months ago, I was a monster, a spoiled, entitled brat who thought designer bags mattered more than my sister. I can't undo that, but I can do better, every day." "Emma," I started. "Let me finish. You gave up money you deserved so I could keep some of mine. You let me live here when you could have had the place to yourself. You became my sister when I'd never been one to you. I don't deserve any of it, but I'm grateful, and I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." "Me too," Marcus added. "Not the spoiled brat part, but the grateful part. For being included when I showed up out of nowhere. For making room at a table that was already complicated. For choosing me." "We choose each other," I said simply. "That's what makes us family." To chosen family, Emma raised her soda can. To sibling rivalry 23 years in the making, Marcus added. To never having to eat frozen pizza alone again, I finished. We played until midnight, Emma winning through what Marcus insisted was cheating, but was probably just twin intuition. As we cleaned up, I felt the satisfying tiredness of a day well lived with people well loved. "Same time next week?" Marcus asked, heading to his room. "Every week," Emma confirmed. "Forever." Forever. Such a big word for people who'd only been real family for 6 months. But as I looked at my siblings, one reconnecting, one discovering, I believed it. We'd lost 23 years to lies and theft and frozen pizza. We wouldn't lose another day to anything less than truth. The house settled into sleep, holding its new family close. Where once these walls had witnessed favoritism and fraud, they now sheltered healing and hope. The same address, completely different home. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, work and school and the ongoing navigation of complicated relationships. But tonight we were simply siblings who'd found each other against all odds. And in this house of former lies, turned temple of truth that was everything. 1 year later, on a warm May afternoon, I stood in the same university auditorium where my journey had begun. But this time, I wasn't alone. The entire family filled 2 rows, Richard and Sarah with baby James, the twins bouncing with excitement, Marcus and Emma in matching Proud Siblings t-shirts they designed themselves, Grandpa with his camera, and Marcus's adoptive parents treating this like their own daughter's celebration. "Welcome to the graduate recognition ceremony for outstanding alumni achievement," the dean announced. "Today we honor those whose post-graduation work has made significant impacts in their fields." Emma squeezed my hand. "I still can't believe they're giving you an award already. It's only been a year." But what a year it had been. The research position had led to a breakthrough in affordable insulin production. My team's work, driven by memories of choosing between medication and textbooks, had earned national recognition. The irony wasn't lost on me. Success born from struggle achievement rooted in adversity. Our first honoree, the dean continued, exemplifies resilience and brilliance. Despite working multiple jobs throughout her undergraduate career, she maintained a perfect GPA and now leads groundbreaking research that could save millions of lives. Please welcome Juanita Martinez. The applause thundered differently this time. Not the polite acknowledgement of strangers, but the explosive pride of family. Melody's "That's My Sister" carried across the auditorium. James, barely 6 months old, clapped his chubby hands together, caught up in the excitement. I walked to the podium past the same spot where I'd delivered my valedictorian speech to empty chairs meant for my parents. This time, I didn't look for faces that wouldn't come. I looked at the faces that had chosen to be there. A year ago, I began. I stood in this auditorium feeling accomplished but alone. I'd achieved everything I set out to do, but success felt hollow when there was no one to share it with. Today I stand here not just as a researcher or an alumna, but as a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a granddaughter. Roles I've learned matter more than any degree. I talked about the research, yes, but more about the team that supported it. About mentors who saw potential where others saw poverty. About the administrator who'd quietly slipped me meal cards when she noticed I'd lost weight. About the professor who'd kept his office stocked with snacks for students who studied through dinner. Success is not a solo endeavor, I concluded. It's built on the shoulders of those who see us, support us, and sometimes save us from circumstances beyond our control. To anyone struggling through college right now, working multiple jobs, choosing between necessities, feeling invisible, you are seen. Your struggle is temporary. Your worth is permanent, and your future is unlimited. The standing ovation felt different this time too, not just recognition, but connection. As I returned to my seat, the dean announced the establishment of the Martinez Family Scholarship, funded jointly by Richard Grandpa and an anonymous donor I suspected was Marcus's adoptive parents. For students who demonstrate resilience in the face of financial hardship, the dean read, preference given to those supporting themselves through college. Emma was crying openly. "We're helping students like you," she whispered, making sure no one else gets a frozen pizza for graduation. After the ceremony, we gathered for photos, real family photos with everyone present and accounted for. Melody insisted on holding my award plaque while Marcus lifted her onto his shoulders. The twins flanked Emma, who held baby James like she'd been born to be an aunt. Sarah and Elena compared notes on child rearing, while Richard and Carlos discussed expanding the scholarship. Grandpa directed everyone with the authority of a man who'd built a company from nothing. "One more," the photographer called. "Just the siblings." Emma, Marcus, and I grouped together, arms linked. The twin who'd been kept, the twin who'd been given away, and the sister who'd been forgotten. 3 casualties of our parents' lies who'd chosen to become each other's truth. "Wait," Melody protested. "We're siblings too." So we regrouped, all 6 of Richard's children together. The photo would later hang in his office, captioned simply, "Complete." The celebration moved to a restaurant Richard had rented for the occasion. Not the country club where my parents had prioritized Emma's friend's birthday, but a family-owned Italian place that specialized in homemade pasta and honest food. "Speech," Marcus called out, because of course he did. I stood looking around the table at faces that had become my world. I'm supposed to be the smart one, but I don't have words for this. How do you thank people for giving you what should have been yours all along? How do you express gratitude for love that should be basic, but felt like a miracle? "You just did," Grandpa said gruffly, wiping his eyes. "To the Martinez Family Scholarship." Richard raised his glass. "May it help other Juanitas find their way." "To frozen pizza," Emma added, getting laughs. "The worst gift that led to the best outcome." "To family," Sarah said simply, James babbling agreement in her arms. We ate and laughed and planned. Marcus was starting his final year of law school, specializing in adoption law and family reunification. Emma was halfway through her nursing degree, drawn to pediatric care after falling in love with baby James. The twins had started a YouTube channel about blended families that was surprisingly popular. Richard's company had expanded into biotechnology, inspired by my research. Sarah was pregnant again this time with twins of her own. "It's like we're making up for lost time," Melody observed. "Getting all the siblings we should have had from the start." "Just remember you older ones are in charge of babysitting," Sarah teased. "Already on it," Emma said, expertly burping James. "This one's going to be spoiled rotten, but equally, all babies get equal spoiling." "That's my girl," Richard said proudly. As dessert arrived, not a frozen pizza, but a cake shaped like a DNA helix courtesy of Elena's baker friend, I thought about the letter I'd received that morning. Mom had written from her court-mandated therapy, not to me directly, but through her therapist. An attempt at amends that fell short, but showed progress. I'd thrown it away unread. Some bridges once burned weren't meant to be rebuilt. They served better as reminders of rivers we'd crossed to reach better shores. Present time. Melody announced producing a wrapped box. Inside was a photo album the family had compiled. Pictures from the past year, Sunday dinners, game nights, Marcus's law school achievements, Emma's first day of nursing school holiday gatherings, ordinary moments made extraordinary by their existence. The last page held 2 photos, side by side. On the left, that grainy investigator photo from 20 years ago, 3-year-old me alone on porch steps while a party raged inside. On the right, today's sibling photo, all of us together, chosen and choosing. From invisible to invaluable, Emma had written beneath. My sister, my hero, my family. I couldn't speak, didn't need to. They understood. As the evening wound down, we discussed summer plans, a family vacation to the beach house Richard had rented, 2 weeks of chaos with all 8 kids counting the babies Sarah was carrying, normal family dysfunction instead of the toxic kind we'd escaped. Will you teach me to boogie board, little Marcus asked me. I'll teach you everything, I promised. That's what big sisters do. Outside the restaurant, we said our goodbyes that weren't really goodbyes because we'd see each other in 3 days for Sunday dinner. Emma and I drove home together in comfortable silence, the award plaque between us like a bridge between past and present. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they'd just been honest? Emma asked as we pulled into our driveway. If Mom had told Dad about Richard from the start, if they'd let him help with both of us, if they'd loved us equally. We wouldn't be us, I said simply. You wouldn't have your empathy born from understanding privilege. I wouldn't have my drive born from necessity. Marcus wouldn't have the Riveras. We'd be different people living different lives. Better lives, different lives. This one's pretty good. Emma smiled. Yeah, it really is. Inside, Marcus was already on the couch having beaten us home. Movie night, I picked one about sisters who discover they're actually twins, separated at birth. Too real, Emma laughed, throwing a pillow at him. Pick something else. As they bickered over movie choices, I set my award on the mantel next to Emma's Employee of the Month certificate from the coffee shop and Marcus's law review acceptance letter. Equal achievements equally displayed. My phone buzzed. An unknown number, probably Dad trying again. I blocked it without reading. That chapter was closed, sealed with therapy receipts and restraining orders. You coming? Marcus called. Emma's making popcorn, but I think she's burning it. I am not, Emma protested. It's artisanal charring. I joined them in the kitchen, saving the popcorn and distributing it equally, a habit we'd all developed. Equal portions, equal attention, equal love, the way it always should have been. We settled in for the movie siblings by various definitions, but family by choice. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges and victories. Marcus had a final exam. Emma had a clinical rotation. I had a presentation for potential investors in our insulin production method. But tonight we were just 3 kids who'd found each other despite the adults who'd tried to keep us apart. 3 pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered by lies and reunited by truth. The movie played, but I wasn't watching. I was thinking about that scared 22-year-old who'd stood in this kitchen a year ago staring at a frozen pizza and a sticky note that represented 22 years of neglect. She'd thought she was alone, invisible, unwanted. She'd been wrong. She'd been seen by a grandfather who documented injustice from afar, by a biological father who'd never stopped trying to provide, by siblings she didn't know existed, by chosen family waiting to embrace her. Most importantly, she'd been seen by herself, valued by herself, saved by herself. The frozen pizza was long gone, but its legacy lived in every equal pour of popcorn, every shared laugh, every moment of this rebuilt life. It had been the worst graduation gift imaginable, but it had led to the best gift possible. A family that chose each other. Love you guys, I said, suddenly surprising myself. Love you too. They chorused, not even looking away from the screen. Normal, natural, true. And in this house that had witnessed such inequality, 3 siblings shared popcorn and movie critiques and the quiet miracle of an ordinary evening together. The kind of ordinary that felt extraordinary when you'd lived without it. The kind of ordinary we'd build on for the rest of our lives. Tomorrow there would be new challenges. Next month, new babies. Next year, new achievements. But tonight there was just this: family, home, truth. Everything a frozen pizza could never be, and everything we'd always deserved. Do you have a similar story about family betrayal that led to discovering your true worth? Have you ever had that frozen pizza moment where you finally saw the truth about how you were being treated? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Remember, you deserve to be celebrated, not just tolerated. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, family, and finding your own worth. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their struggles are seen and their worth is permanent. Thank you for joining me today, and remember, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you deserve a seat at a table that celebrates you equally. Until next time, keep choosing yourself. You're worth it.